What's up, Facebook? What's up, Instagram? Going live on both. Gotta plug my phone up. Make sure it stays charged. You never know. So, just thought I'd come on here as I do every Sunday. It just seems to be a Sunday thing. I've just been seeing a lot of comments and a lot of messages from different people. So I thought I'd come on here and, kind of try to quell some of that just out there, because a lot of you are great people, great patriots, great Americans. I don't even like to use the term Republicans, conservatives anymore, just because we should be getting away from that in another manner, even though we do have to have those right now for identification purposes. But I got notes to keep me on track today, keep me from rambling too much. But I just think a lot of people are losing focus and need to stay focused. And, that's what good leaders do. That's what good commanders do, is keep you focused on the finish line, not everything that you go through, the hurdles along the way. They're part of that. It's kind of like being a cowboy. Once you decide you want to be a cowboy, then you got to learn certain things. The fall is part of it. Bucking is part of it. There's certain things that are part of getting to the finish line. So many people right now are complaining over things that you shouldn't even be complaining about. You should be actually enjoying the show no matter how bad it gets. You should be, bad in your definitional terms, because it's not bad. If you know the verbiage and the terminology, it's not bad. Nothing going on right now is bad. So a lot of people are just losing focus because you're allowing the wrong people, quote unquote, influencers in your life. And guys like me, I'm quick to separate that I'm not an influencer. Some people call me that now, but you got to remember, I'm a retired veteran first. I'm a veteran first. I'm keeping my oath first. God gave me a platform to deliver to you the information. But I don't consider myself a podcaster. And if you would look at it that way, then a lot of you would separate some of this bull crap that's out there, because a lot of it just don't matter. A lot of these quote-unquote influencers, they know they don't know. The ones that don't know that they don't know, that's even worse. They shouldn't even be out there. All right, so there's a lot of things that's just a bunch of noise right now. Just all chaos and noise. And you control that. It's also part of learning and adapting to the future, what's coming. All these different things like AI and all these different tools. They're good when they're good. They're bad when they're bad. But you still got to learn them, because that's where we're going. Technology's not going away. So it's the same thing with influencers out there. A lot of you are liking and loving, like clicking like and love on stuff that drives that post to a more visible. And it's just making more people go to it. It could be no more true or no more accurate, but because people are giving it attention, you're making it get more visible to people. That's your power and control. That's why you got to learn how the internet works. I'm a product of the internet. I went globally viral on a video. It's good when it's good. It's bad when it's bad. But it still goes back to, again, you allow what you allow in your life. You allow people to control your emotions. You allow that. So, when you're all mad and flustered and upset and bitter and crying and don't know who to listen to, and it's just so much, that's your fault. All right, so guys like me are saying, look, divorce your emotions, put your emotions and your feelings over here. When I talk the way I'm talking right now, I'm not talking down to you. I'm not trying to mansplain you or degrade you. I'm just saying, hey, focus, listen. Stop hearing, listen. Hone in. Zone in. Listen. Look me in the eyes. Pay attention. And then once you do that, you will see all the other stuff you're following. 99% of it's riffraff. They just want a face. They want a name. They want to be popular. They want to tote the news. We're in the social media world. We're in the social media world where people are social media attention whores. Might as well say it, call it for what it is. They're attention whores. That's all they want. You know how many times I've been propositioned to have bigger shows and better backgrounds and, you name it, money? You know how many times? Bunches. Do you see me doing that? No. And how long have I been in your life? Almost 3 years now. Have I changed any? No. So that's how you know when you can trust people. Now, same thing I tell people all the time. Look, you still don't just jump hook, line, and sinker. You always keep someone like me at an arm's distance if you don't know me. And you judge a tree by the fruit it bears, like the Bible says. That's how you tell a tree. Is by the fruit it bears, the fruits of the Spirit. All right, so if my fruits are always aligned with the Spirit, that's how you walk and talk with me. That's how you walk and talk through life with people. So again, being good from the beginning is how you know. All right, and if you're a good person, that's how you're going to be able to differentiate, because we're in a spiritual warfare and we're in an information warfare right now. Spiritual being the bigger power, but information, the devil takes a lot of information and confuses it, twists it. So that's why you got to be extra careful. And like I say, I don't come here to preach, but then again, I do know the Bible a little bit. It says the Bible says the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. All right, now listen to that phrasing of that. They didn't put that out of line. They didn't put kill before steal. They didn't put destroy before steal and kill. They put steal. The devil can't destroy something unless you have something. So he has to steal it first, then kill it, then destroy it. So if you will apply those little simple principles in your life as you're walking through the work week or the week or whatever it is, if you're not working anymore, if you're sitting on this too long, if you will apply little simple principles, then you'll walk a lot better through this. And your attitude will flip and it'll change because of what you allow in your life. And too many people are allowing all the riffraff. Just because it looks good, sounds good, or whatever. That old saying, just because it glitters, don't mean it's gold. All right, so that's little things like that you can go by. So you want to stay focused, then you need to know people who know what's going on. Everything I've always given, every single body, you can tangibly go put your eyes on a .gov or .mil site that's current and invoked. Everything. That's why it's so humorous when I hear people out there talking about this hogwash and BS and conspiracy theories. They ain't read anything. They have not studied anything. Every single thing that I talk about are all straight up current and invoked, laws and orders, executive orders, but more importantly, military first. So anybody who says that straight out the gate has no idea what they're talking about. Not a clue. So therefore you, especially those who have been following me a while, you automatically know. They don't have a clue what they're talking about. Not a clue. But it perturbs people like me for another reason, for good reasons, because I know that I've been called by God. I know that I've been put in this position. I know that. And whether other people know that or not doesn't matter. I know that. So it's like when I go to certain events, people go, "Wow, why are you going to this event? Why are you speaking here?" Look, I don't know what everybody else is there for, but I know what I'm there for. And I also know there's an audience out there. They need to see that. They need to see Daniel going to the lion's den. They need to see people like this. All right, that's why so many people do not comprehend special operations. President Trump, what he's been tasked to do. He's not the front man, meaning like he's the one calling all these shots. This is a giant military operation, strategic plan with multiple generals and multiple tactics that they put together for years, and they're flipping the narrative. We've won this thing already. But it's a special operation. It's not political and it's not governmental. It's cleaning out the government, but it's not governmental operations. It's military operations. So if you love our military, if you love the whole military, the whole concept of military, if you love the military, then you got to understand who the commanders are and what we are working with, what they're working with, the big dogs. We as in the military. You got to know that. So you want to stay focused, then you need to know who's in charge. Ironically, a lot of rhinos and Republicans and conservatives are the ones acting like liberals in another manner right now. Those are the Republicans, conservatives, and quote-unquote patriots are the least ones that need to be fretful right now. That's the last people who should be fretful. But it also shows again that most people don't know anything about the three branches of government, legislation, and how our country operates and functions. And then the attention spans are super short. And you'll have people out there saying, oh, this guy talks for 2 or 3 hours. If he can't get something said in 5 or 10 minutes, there's the problem right there. People who think that everything that we've been enduring for the last 60 years, we could go further, but let's just use 60 years back to JFK. If you think it's a 5-minute solution, you are out of your freaking mind. And that's why we look the way we've looked, is because of that attitude. We have lazy Americans, lazy and complacent. And data shows 54% of Americans, 54%, over half, are at a 6th grade education and below with reading and comprehension. So if you feel guilty, it's not my fault. Not my fault that I'm not in that 54 percentile. Sharpen your skills. Divorce your emotions. Divorce your feelings. Go to the facts. Go to the foundation. The foundation is who's in charge and what are they working with. It is that simple. Yet people make it complicated. So it's like I got a message earlier, and I'll just be as blunt as possible. When they'll say, well, people are saying this and people are saying... people don't matter when it comes to that. Not that kind of people. All right, when it's just people, oh, so did you hear what so-and-so said today? Did you hear? If you don't know who the commanders are, the operation, which is clearly outlined, then it don't matter what's said all over the place. Again, when there's a clear blueprint in place, it's already there. I wouldn't have the followers I have. And this is where all the ladies, all the women, all the female patriots, may you rise up and stand up and pat yourself on the back. All the ladies pat each other on the back. All the ladies give each other a hand clap. I would not have a platform if it weren't for American patriot women. Women, females, ladies. It don't matter what ethnicity they are. It don't matter what nationality they are. It don't matter what they look like. It don't matter where they from. Again, culture, it don't matter. I wouldn't have the platform I have today if it were not for American patriot women and women all over the world. We won't even just use American. If it weren't for patriotic females. Because again, guys, when you tell a female, that's a fact. You don't even have to use a number. You don't have to say 100%, 99, 80. You just say a fact. That's a fact. A female is going to find out if that's a fact or not. They're going to go read, especially if you give them material to go read. They're going to read it. And then they're going to cover it with a fine-tooth comb, front, backwards, diagonal, side to side, you name it. They're going to read it backwards. They're going to flip it over, read it upside down. Ladies have all kinds of talents, guys. And if I was wrong somewhere, somehow, guess who would have done found me out by now? Females. Women. And then it don't even matter what kind of woman they are. They're going to find out. So, ladies, you are. You have, and you didn't even have to say that. You didn't even have to say some bullcrap like women power and all that. You don't even have to say it. You just do it. You just do it. You just are and you just do it. And y'all done it. And again, you'll be rewarded in the future because a lot of you deserve jobs in these sectors. A lot of you deserve the platforms as well. A lot of you do that. the small groups you've created all out through the country. I know multiple different small groups all over the nation of females. And guys, it's your own fault. If you want to make this a sexist thing, you want to make this a versus thing, it's your fault. It's your fault for being pansy asses and not standing up. It's your fault. It's your fault for saying stuff it's bull, saying it's BS, it's hogwash and all this, and your testosterone and all beating your chest. It's your fault. It's no one else's fault but yours. Because this is a reading and comprehension thing. And it's who's in charge and what are they working with. And there's a finite blueprint there. Now, it's not all in one location. That's what makes me unique and what gave me a #1 bestseller. Well, the people did that. But it's what we've done together with these books that I have. I put it all in one place and all in a chronological order where you don't have to sit and take 30 years to go put it all together in your spare time. I've done that for you. It's a Cliff Note book. It's the like the old cheat books where you didn't want to read the whole book, but here's the Cliff Notes of it. So when you call it a Cliff Note bullcrap, you should expect the reaction you should expect from all the female ladies out there. And if I were a female, I would cut your ass off. That's what I would do. And I know divorce ain't right, but if I was talked to like I've heard some of the ladies have been talked to, your ass would be grass. That's what I would do if God had made me a female. But he didn't. All right, but from what I've heard and seen throughout this nation with the males out there and the guys, you don't deserve to call yourself a man. A lot of you do not. You don't deserve that title. You don't deserve it. So I better stop on that because I could keep going with that. All right, but it's a rolling operation. People think there's going to be this day that the whole world just stops and here's all the answers in one day. It's not going to work like that. So if you want to know, when I hear people say, why can't I see anything? When's this going to be revealed? It's been revealed daily in front of you because you don't know the verbiage and the terminology. You're too busy clicking on everybody and anybody because you think there's just going to be this one answer that has everything there. I'm the closest thing to it. And it's not bragging on me, but I'm the closest thing to all the answers in one spot. That is what these two have done. That's the closest thing you're going to get to it, right there. The closest. But to act like that, to think that there's going to be this day that the whole world just stands still and goes, bloop, 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 bloop. It ain't happening. Your validation has come the whole way. It's a rolling operation. Rolling. President Trump told you on January the 20th, 2025, he told you, we've been at this operation for 9 years, but really 20. All right, so he told you. He's told you all along the way. Did you listen or did you hear? A lot of people are just hearing. A lot of people are caught up in the moment. Yeah, drain that swamp. Drain that swamp. Let's go, MAGA. Yeah. How did you chant all this stuff, but didn't it? It's happening right in front of people. It's there. So we're going to do a little rehash on history and bring it up to speed. But in the Revolutionary War, ladies and gentlemen, ladies specifically, because y'all the ones listening, but in the Revolutionary War, I love my Marine Corps. A friend of mine, his daughter just passed Marine Corps basic training recently, so congrats. I love my Marine Corps. But Marine Corps must have been drinking too much rye whiskey back in the 1770s. All right, because it was not 3%. It was 1.7 to 1.9% of 2.3 million people who fought in the Revolutionary War. So do your math. Of the numbers they've given, of the amount of soldiers, based on history, if that number is correct, you take that number, divide 2.3 million into that. That's your percentile that fought in the Revolutionary War. 1.7 to 1.9% average. So if you want to take the median of that, 1.8%. 1.8% of 2.3 million people fought in the Revolutionary War. So think how many people were sitting in their houses, Think how many people were whining, complaining, griping, fussing, moaning, or just didn't care, out doing their own thing. Think about it. Math adds up. Then you have Thomas Jefferson, the main author of your Declaration of Independence, and then James Madison, the father of the Constitution. Those are two people now that wrote the core, key, foundation of this nation while we're here right now having this conversation. Two men. Two. So add that two men onto that time. That'd be like a decimal point, 0.0000000 something percent onto that 1.7. Two. Those two men, with the exception of your 56 signers of the Declaration. So, again, and those numbers are still included in the fight, though, because they were also soldiers. Majority of them were soldiers. 1.8% of the 9 years of that revolution. And people today, we don't need 100 percentile of Americans. We don't need that. So where we are today, based on population, with what we have awake, we're good. Let the liberals whine, bitch, complain, fuss, moan, and look like freaking idiots that they are right now. They are perfect for one reason. Most of them are in reprobate minds, as the Bible talks about. They're too far gone. But what they're doing right now is putting a giant red X on their foreheads. Every single one of you in your communities, wherever you are to remember these people. Do not let them get anywhere near city councils, town halls, etc. That's how that works. Let them whine and complain. Let them act like idiots, because they don't know anything about the Constitution that they claim to support. All right. So again, military was the only way this could have been done lawfully, like they've done it. If they would have done some kind of government, if this would have been without the military and not so much lawful, we would have had a civil war. Even though liberals typically ain't gonna fight, they don't know how to fight, but we don't want no bloodbath. All right, because that's what it would be. If you unleash all the rednecks, the hillbillies, those entities alone, plus the bikers, all of our bikers out there, all the gangs out there, the biker gangs, the good and the bad, you release all them, along with the hillbillies, the rednecks, and then all of us veterans, it wouldn't be pretty. It would be over in a half a day with these liberals and these idiots out there, if it looked like that. They don't want that. We allow them to bark in this nation. They don't want it. That's what's funny, though, is we're still allowing them to bark and get on social media and act like fools that they are. But it's perfect because they're putting red X's on their foreheads. All right? But if you want to know what's going on, you got to know the command. Who's in command, who's in control, and what are they working with? It's that simple. And there's a finite blueprint, a chronological order, lawfully done, which is so brilliant that they've pulled this off on such a massive scale, world scale, not just United States, a massive scale. This plan is flawless. So how did we get here? I'm going to recap it just as fast as I can. So President Trump was on the campaign trail, 2016. He said something that my grandfather talked about. He said something that my great uncles talked about. My grandfather didn't know those great uncles. Those two separate sides of the family. All right. He said something that they called a conspiracy theory for years. They meaning left and your liberals, your libtards, all those. 200 generals said never again will we let happen to this country happen what happened under JFK. If we get a chance to take it over, we will. Take over lawfully. All right. Military law, military government, military occupation, lawful military. Not a coup, but a lawful military. Some liberals will call that a coup because they are just idiots and don't know any better. All right. But even if it was, it's still lawful, and it's military, meaning that all of the Americans who are kicking, cussing, whining, griping, fussing, all this other, acting like a bunch of spoiled toddlers who have no clue what's going on. So it's like when you take a knife away, if a toddler saw a shiny object, but it was a knife, right? But the little kid thought it was a toy, you take it away from him, right? Well, what's it going to do? It's going to cry because he didn't know any better. Well, that's what Americans look like right now. Even a lot of rhinos look that way right now. It's unfortunate, but that's where we got. So it had to be military because military could do it lawfully. But when you do it militarily as a whole, most Americans do respect our military because we have multiple nationalities, ethnicities in the military from the commanding spots all the way down. So as a whole, military was the best option to do this because, again, at the end of the day, most Americans cannot identify evil if it was sitting in their living room and presented themselves as their child or their mother. They let that wolf right on into the living room and they wouldn't know any better. So that's why, again, most Americans, especially patriots, I tell people all the time, stop trying to judge who's good and bad. You do not know who's good and bad. You're not part of the operation. All right, you're a witness to it. You're a jury to it. You're sitting front row jury, front row seat, but you do not know who's playing a role right now. This is a military special operation. It requires certain kinds of skills, tactics, and actors to do so. And it's all been done before in World War II history. Slightly different. It's all been done before. So you gotta know that. The 200 generals. Now, whether you want to call it 14 or 15 doesn't matter. I call it 14 generals and a supreme commander because a supreme commander means a supreme, meaning I'm the commander of the whole operation. But whether you want to call it 14 or 15 doesn't matter. All right, 15 in total, but 14 and then the supreme as the top. But 15 generals commanded World War II. 15. 15 generals commanded World War II. Now, that don't mean the generals that were participants, but we're talking about commanders. All right, 15. Pretty sure World War II turned out pretty good when old America stepped in and our boys hit them beaches and also defied some orders that were in there as well that were not good. All right, but you'll have to go listen to the lieutenant colonel and colonel who forwarded these books. We did a D-Day special about this, and they broke all that down, how our boys defied some orders that was a turning point in World War II. All right, because there were also some bad leaders involved in World War II. There's always bad involved somewhere along the way. All right, but when you go back to that, 15 generals. President Trump told you on the campaign trail in 2016, I have 200 generals backing me and more to come. Woo! All he had to say was that, and you automatically knew we were about to whoop everybody's ass all over the world. All these evil, everything. When you know 15 commanded World War II and the results of that, and he says, I got 200 generals backing me right now and more to come, and it wasn't even started yet, game over. All right, so again, now if you weren't military and you didn't grow up military and you didn't know military terminology, military verbiage, etc., you wouldn't have known all this, and that's okay. But now you do. It's like the Bible says, once you've heard one time, you can't deny it after that. All right, so June the 12th, 2015, a new law of war manual was reissued. It was enhanced. They took the law of war manuals from Germany, Canada, United Kingdom, and Australia and enhanced those, meaning like strengthened it. All right, that was June the 12th. President Trump rolls down the escalator to announce his presidency. 4 days later, June the 16th, 2015. All right, roll over to 2016, February 2016. President Trump told the whole world we're going to keep Guantanamo Bay open. All right, says I don't care what Obama said, we're keeping it open. That should tell you right there that military is in full control already. Because Obama had already signed an executive order to terminate Guantanamo Bay, to shut it down. He had already put an executive order in for that. And here's President Trump, February 2016, telling you we're going to keep it open. All right, April 2016, Special Operations Command. Special Operations, they put out a new publication for unconventional warfare. All right, April. May, the Military Justice Act was passed. Out of nowhere, all of a sudden, the United States Supreme Court, not President Trump's nominees, remember we're in 2016, not President Trump yet, out of nowhere, Ginsburg and that crew decides to clarify that military courts and federal courts are separate. Why? Why all of a sudden are they clarifying that military courts and federal courts are separate? I wonder why. All right. November the 8th, 2016, President Trump, remember the magic wand? Remember Obama dropping the phone and saying, oh, at least I'll be president. At least I'll go down in history as president. Remember all the no, never, nevers? He's never going to be president. Never. Remember all that? And then what happened November the 8th, 2016? And guess who took the photo that night that I spread all over the internet? Me. Of President Trump and Putin side by side. It said, ready for reset. Reset was in single quotations, meaning focus on this word. Reset. Resetting of the currencies. Resetting of the banks. Resetting of everything. Where were you? Where were you, all you naysayers? Where were you? Where were you? So I can't see anything. Why can't I see it? Because you don't know the terminology. You don't know the verbiage. You don't listen to the commander. The guy you claim to love and support. How can you love and support him if you don't listen to him? Put away all everything, the chaos, the noise. Get to someone like me who shows you military laws, baby. It's all there. It was there from the beginning. Where were you? I should have titled this, Where Were You? December 2016, President Trump started talking about hammering Boeing. What happened to Boeing? Pretty sure they were cleaned out as well. All right. January 17, 2017, Federal Continuity Directive 1 was issued. Your continuity of government. That's the bigger, broad publication. Federal Continuity Directive 1. 3 days before President Trump took the oath, and then he said what? When military officers walked down behind him, he said, we're taking the power out of D.C. and giving it back to you, the people. The moment he said that, the military walks down behind him, and there were two not generals, but there were officers standing behind him. And guess what the insignia, see this little tassel right here in my ball cap? Their insignia was military intel and judge advocate general. Pretty sure that coincides with the Military Justice Act because the people who collect all the evidence in the military, analog, not digital, meaning it can't be hacked, meaning you ain't hacking our systems. When we got your ass, we got your ass. All right, that's what that means. Military intel does that. And guess who puts it in the courtroom and judges it? Oh, I'm pretty sure that's Judge Advocate General. The two headbands that were standing right beside President Trump when he said we're taking the power out of D.C. and giving it back to you, the people. How in the hell can we have people have control of the government, which is what we the people stands for, if the people don't even know and identify what the hell is going on? So I get mad because I'm frustrated for good people. I'm frustrated because there's still idiots out there trying to make you clickbait. They're trying to make you fall for all kinds of propaganda, regurgitate surface level drama and bullcrap that does not matter. It doesn't matter. Then June the 13th, 2017, Federal Continuity Directive 2. That's the implementation phases of Federal Continuity Directive 1. Those are your two umbrellas. FCD1, FCD2, Federal Continuity Directives. You'll have idiots out there who will say, we've always had continuity of government plans. Yeah, you dumb idiots, but we don't invoke them. They're there if we need them. Well, guess what? They were invoked. So see, that's why I get frustrated with people out there, because I get frustrated for you. So I talk as if someone new is watching me for the first time. And I talk as if that person that's watching for the first time is the one who called you an idiot, called you a fool, called you a moron, because I can take the heat. So I talk as if it's a new audience every time. So keep that in mind. Not talking to some of you who are great patriots. All right. Then your capitulation started. 2017 to 2020. Capitulation. All these world leaders. President Trump left that Argentinian president on the stage. He was looking around. President Trump just walked off the stage. All the libtards out there, oh, he don't know couth and etiquette. Look at him looking like a... No, it was all done on purpose. All these things that were so different and unique were done on purpose because they were what? Focal points. It got your attention. But what's your attention on? Is it on what's actually taking place? Or did you fall for the drama and the propaganda like the liberals did? All right. Special operations and resistance movements require all kinds of things that gets people's attention. So if you're still reacting negative, you're still reacting, not positive of any kind, whatever it is, whether it's really negative or not, or if you're just getting angry, mad, sad, bitter, whatever it is, if you're reacting like that, you are not on board with what's going on. And you can be, but it requires divorcing your emotions, divorcing your feelings, and putting all these other people aside. Some influencers just do not matter. The good thing is when they hear that, they have to figure out which ones I'm talking about. Some of them know, because I've already told them straight to their face, and also on the message, the ones I've never met, that they're a pathetic piece of craps, because they are basically crapping on the military. You're crapping on all military personnel when you keep pushing all kinds of drama and surface level bullcrap. You're crapping on the military. That's why better not give me the erase button for social media. I will be erasing some accounts quicker than a cat can lick its butt. Ooh, I'm sorry. Gone. Ooh, there went 1 million followers. Bye, Felicia. So it goes back to what Dan Scavino said, one of President Trump's right-hand men. Dan Scavino says that don't let 10% of the nation, liberals, make you think they're the 90 percentile. They're not. They bark the loudest. They get out and parade like idiots in the streets. Oh, do they? Yes, they do. But don't confuse their bark for bite. All right. Same thing with influencers. A lot of them are all bark. They are no bite. All right. So if you want drama in your life and you want propaganda, then you got it all day long. It's there 24/7 all over Rumble, all over Facebook, X, everywhere. True Social, even President Trump's platform. All day long. You got drama all day long, propaganda, resurfaced, regurgitated bullcrap they call news all day long. But if you want to know what's going on, you need to know how. How the results are coming there. I show you the how. Because it's all straight up current and invoke laws and orders. All right. So you got to know who's in command. For the millionth time. Who's in command? What are they working with? So, we're rolling. It's going to sound like a broken record again, but it's a beautiful broken record because of what's taking place currently right now still needs the broken record to set up what's taking place currently. So current events still requires what set up the success of those current events. I need to get a broken record. I'm going to have to order a broken record where I can hold it up and just pretend that it's spinning and go and make it sound like one of those guys, like a DJ. But it's a broken record, so it's going to be all sounds whatever, right? So Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. You've heard me in every video because it's important. That's your foundational order, all right? Title 50, War and National Defense, all right? Chapter 33, that's your War Powers Act, all right? Section 1550 was not there until they put it there December the 20th, 2019. Now, every president from 1973 to present day, besides President Trump, will go back to Obama, to 73 to Obama, minus President Trump because it's a wartime president, completely different. All right, but every president said that the War Powers Act was unconstitutional, that Congress did that. Because Congress put term limits on the president in 1951, but not themselves. So that shows you where legislation and laws, judicial branch, was expanded so big, all right, that the legislative and executive weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. They actually made their own checks and balances for themselves. All right, that's where the swamp and the deep state really took a nosedive, 1951, because then 61 was Eisenhower's military-industrial complex speech. 63, we know what happened in 63. All right, so then you fast forward, 73. 73, Congress made it to where a president could only use the military on his will with a national emergency, which was dangerous because every president from Jimmy Carter, I can make a case that Jimmy Carter was a wartime president all the way to President Trump because we have an executive order with a national emergency that's open since 1979. They've continued it every 2 years since 79. And there's 41 like that. 41 before what President Trump did January the 20th, 2025. 41 national emergencies open since 1979. When a president declares a national emergency, that opens 150 statutory powers by the president that Congress cannot do anything about. So you can easily paint a picture where Congress and the presidents battled each other as well through the years. Very dangerous situation because when you have that balance that's fighting back and forth like this, then you have tension building up wherever else in the world. It's not good. That's what is going on with the military having to go in and put a military government in and clean out the federal government and wipe it all out. That's why liberals look atrocious right now. Liberals, whoo, and it ain't a lot of them. Again, they're like 10% of the 100% in our, number system here. However, that's why they look atrocious right now. They can keep looking where they want because, again, all their heroes are going to melt. So in that first 180 days, that clause from 1550 specifically says in the first 180 days after December the 20th, 2019, and every 180 days thereafter, the president will report to Congress the use of regular forces and irregular forces and joint partners. Well, that irregular term pulls in your clandestine. That pulls in your covert. That pulls in your unconventional warfare. That pulls in your special operations. Right there, that one word, irregular. Irregular warfare. All right, that's where it pulls in. Very key. So in that first 180 days alone, President Trump federalized 1 million reserve components. And I don't care what X tells anybody, and I love X, it's a great platform, but again, the community notes, same as fact checkers, people are wrong. That executive order stands alone from the national emergency, the verbal national emergency on March 13, 2020. That executive order was March 27, 2020. It stands alone, has nothing to do with this one being terminated. It stands alone, it's not been revoked, it's active. That's how executive orders operate without a national emergency. If it had a national emergency attached to it inside the order, then it would have terminated with the specification of terminating that national emergency. But it didn't happen that way. They're separate. All right, that executive order stands alone. All right, President Trump federalized 1 million reserve components. Joe Biden, quote unquote, Puppet Joe, the puppet government Joe, shadow government, government in exile, Puppet Joe had one executive order with Title 10 in it. But it only pulled a few reserve components out of that 1 million back here. But see, when people cherry pick an order like that, or you think that the 4 years of President Trump from 2017 to 2021 were separate than the 2021 and 2025, if you don't look and don't know anything about the military operation going on, and if you just cherry pick that order, you would think that, okay, he put a Title 10 in there as well, but you got to see the bigger picture. The bigger picture was that executive order back here was not revoked. It federalized 1 million reserve components. Reserve, are not like the National Guard. Reserve, federal missions only. National Guard have a dual mission, state and federal. All right, but reserves are federal only. That's why that's so key and important. Then the other Executive Order 13919 invoked Title 10 as well on April the 30th, 2020. It has not been revoked. All right, that was President Trump directing equal authority to the Secretary of Defense for federalization of selective reserve components. There's a difference in reserves and selective reserves. You'll have to go read up on that. We don't have time to go over all that. Then in the second 180 days, just the military orders alone, in the second 180 days, all right, August 28, 2020, a report to Congress. Oh, what do you know? August 28, 2020 is exactly 180 business days from December the 20th, 2019. And there's a report to Congress. Guess what it was titled? The Military Justice Act. Oh, wow, what a coincidence that is. Then December the 7th, 2020, President Trump, Executive Order 13961, the Federal Mission Resilience Strategy. That's your continuity of government invoking right there. That's exactly what that is. December the 10th, 2020, Executive Order 13963 is the last order of succession within the Department of Defense that's being used currently right now. President Trump's order of succession. Is that why the last National Security Strategy on Department of Defense .mil is 2017 by President Trump? Where's Joe Biden's 2022? Why is it on an archive page? Why does the Department of State show 2021 to 2025, but the last person on their archive is President Trump? Weird. I mean, perhaps because also the current Department of State says that this website is currently suspended. And then January the 19th, 2025, the last full day of a president's presidency, Joe Biden, the last executive order on Joe's resume is an executive order revoking Executive Order 13961, the continuity of government and continuity of operations for the executive branch. I'm pretty sure that the terminology tells you that you can't revoke something that hasn't been invoked. So if there wasn't a continuity of government or a continuity of operations, if Joe was president, he would have had the same power January the 20th, 2021 that he had on January the 19th, 2025. So why didn't he revoke that executive order if there wasn't a continuity of government or a continuity of operations on January the 20th, 2021? Why did he wait to the last day of his presidency to revoke a continuity of government? Then, again, like a broken record, you'll hear idiots out there say that a president cannot serve past 2 terms. They are a fool. And I know one in particular, but I won't call them out because they've already been called out and they've already been made to look stupid, as a lot of people don't like that term. But stupid games equals stupid prizes. All right. Yes, they most certainly can serve past their 2 terms. A thing called Dwight D. Eisenhower established these things called Presidential Emergency Action Documents. That also is a continuity of government. Guess who established that? Again, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who just happened to be the Supreme Commander of World War II. You know what he was also titled? Military Governor. Military Governor. What a coincidence that is. Because what else do I talk about all the time? Military government, military occupation, government in exile, shadow government, all in your unconventional warfare. Presidential Emergency Action Documents. It spans the power of the president. They are draft classified. You can't Google what's inside them, but there's enough laws and orders invoked to show you that most certainly they have been signed and put in. But before we get there, March 23rd, 2020, the mainstream media told you what? That President Trump was going to install a general just in case law breaks down. Ladies and gentlemen, you do not install a general. The general is already there. A general is already a general. A general has already been named a commander. All right? Certain generals are already been named combatant commanders. All right? So you don't install a general. Now that right there was part of 47 United States Code Section 606, which is your Telecommunications Act of 1996. All right, the president can control radio, TV, and internet. All right, so the publication of anything, president can control that during a wartime. It's actually called War Powers of the President. That is the title of 47 United States Code Section 606, War Powers of the President. So them using terminology like that during that time period was on purpose to show you if you were reading if you were paying attention and knew what you were reading, we'll say it that way, then you would know, we're still there. Still part of it. All right. Then they also started all that chatter back then that, President Trump, the liberals, President Trump's going to terminate the Constitution. He hates the Constitution. He's going to terminate the Constitution. That's when all that chatter popped up. It's a thing called suspension of the Constitution. Writ of habeas corpus. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution. I saw Bernie Sanders put a tweet up today about, the President Trump needs to actually read the Constitution. Boy, these liberals, man, I'm telling you. Now, I know that's still a distraction because we're still in the operation. But for the ones who are under him and believe that are atrocious right now. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution is called the suspension clause. It's the writ of habeas corpus. All right? It's for rebellion or invasion of public safety. The Constitution can be suspended. Guess who does that, though? This is where it comes into knowing legislation and knowing the three branches of government and knowing the Constitution. Article 1 is the legislative branch. So that means Congress would suspend it, not President Trump. Now, they may be in talks with each other, which I know they were, and this was all a plan. It wasn't even a talk. The plan was already in place long before March 2020. But, again, it's Congress who does that. So if the liberals want to be mad at somebody, they need to be mad at Congress, not President Trump. They're the ones who suspended the Constitution. The suspension of the Constitution, ladies and gentlemen, there's two laws in the United States of America. Military law and federal law. Then you go back to the United States Supreme Court in May 2016 clarifying that military courts are separate from federal courts. Well, what does that also tell you? Military law is separate from federal law. Separation of powers, which is what the Federalist Papers were all about. Talking about the separations of the three branches of government and how they're to stand alone on each of their own. That's why you got to know our foundation and know our history. Military law is completely separate than federal. When you're in the United States military, you get pulled over, speeding ticket or something like that. Guess what you got to do as a soldier? You have to carry that ticket to your commander. You don't deal with it on your own. You don't go, he won't ever find out, she won't ever find out. I'm going to slide this under there. And, I think I can be off that day and I can get over there to the courthouse and get... No way, Jose. You better not do that. You better not take that chance, because if they ever find out, that would be considered skipping command and also breaching military law. You don't want to do that. I can assure you that, because the outcome will be 100% worse if they ever found out that you skipped that. So you take that ticket to your commander. You got to go by what your commander says and then what civil says. So one ticket probably wouldn't get you in a whole lot of trouble. I never got one when I was in, but one wouldn't get you in a whole lot of trouble. But if you got 3 in a row, your commander's going to be like, whoa. You're not getting with the program here. What's going on? What are you doing? So military can take your keys away. Some of y'all would never make it in the military. You'd never make it. They take your phone away. They do a lot of stuff that people, grown people now, not no dumb, fuzzy, don't have rank private. They do a lot to a lot of people. They're good commanders. Trying to make you do right, get right. All right, so the visualization was that when they started telling you that, oh, determination of the Constitution. No, if you knew the law, if you knew the Constitution, the highest law in the land, you would know, there's an actual clause called the suspension clause. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 is called the suspension clause. Congress can suspend the Constitution. That was your visual back then. That was validation then if you were following along. The other thing is, President Trump told you recently, he just said this like a couple weeks ago again. He said, I've signed over 400 executive actions, not orders, actions. There's only 152 on the Federal Register right now from January the 20th to present day. There's only 152 from executive orders, proclamations, and other documents. Only 152. Where are the others? He said, I've signed for presidential emergency action documents. Now, this is where we're going to get into some fun stuff. Why are so many ambassadors that President Trump is appointing, why are they veterans? Do you know what they call an ambassador in the military? I'm just going to pretend that someone's going to answer, but we don't have that kind of time. An ambassador is also called a chief of mission, a COM. Chief of mission. Now, we're going to read a little bit here. I'm going to pull up some stuff and read for you. Some fun stuff. All right, Title 50, Section 3052 talks about your ambassadors. All right. There's that Title 50 again. Whoa, what do you know? War and national defense. Boy, if only some influencers out there would get with the program, but they can't because they'll have to do what? They'll have to give credit where it's due because they didn't know and they've gone too long without knowing. All right, joint publication. We're going to read this really quick. Joint publication 3-57. All right, I'm going to read this really quick. You can all look this up. All public material. You should want to look it up. Letter C on page 23. All right. Promoting stability in support of national objectives is often a key responsibility. Stability activities include military missions conducted by GCCs and subordinate commanders in coordination with other United States government departments and agencies and their implementing partners. JFCs, in coordination with the Chief of Mission, may use components of CMO as a tool to mitigate suffering. The next line down is a title. Military government. A military government is established during military operations when replacement or sustainment of civil authority is required to maintain stability and governance in an area that has been legally occupied. Military government supports United States instruments of national power abroad through executing governance tasks mandated by United States policy and international law. The objective of a military government is to establish law and order for United States government stabilization and reconstruction efforts. The end state of which is a reconstructed indigenous government that employs government policies consistent with United States interests. When force is necessary and a territory is occupied, the occupying force imposes military authority, the law of land warfare. You got to read all this. Then also on page 26, all right, we'll read that really quick. Let me find it where I'm at. Let's see. The combatant commander may conduct CMO to support the calm and enhance host nation legitimacy. So when you go to page 26, you need to learn about host nations and what the chief of mission's role is with the host nation. All right, and also in this joint publication 3-57, if you go to page 27, page 60, page 108, and page 10, you can also read about the COM, the Chief of Mission. All right, very important, very, very important, because again, President Trump, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but President Trump has given you so many different verbal validations of what I talk about, of a military government, of a military occupation, of a continuity of government. It's all there. All right, all there. I'm going to roll back up here, though, for another thing that I just saw that I'm going to try to paint a picture of really fast. About Reconstruction. That's the term. Reconstruction. All right, if you listen to President Trump, I was going to save this for later, but I might as well put it in here now. Right there, when it says that, the objective of a military government is to establish law and order. What does President Trump say all the time? We're going to do what? Restore law and order? Well, establishing law and order, from what we just came out of the last 60 years, is also establishing law and order. Meaning that there were many out there saying this. That's why no Democrat or liberal ever pointed at President Trump and said you can't do that. Because all he's doing is enforcing the laws on paper. All he would have to do in a normal setting, even though this is all a plan, it's all an operation, but in a normal setting, if it was a normal, it's not, but if it was, all he'd have to say is, why'd you keep it on the law books if I can't enforce it? You left it there, tough cookie, all right? So that's all they'd have to do. But it's not, so it doesn't really matter. But for people out there that don't know that yet, if you need it in layman's terms, that's all that he would have had to do and say, well, why is it still in law if I can't enforce it? You left it here. So see, that shows you what they've done, what the military's done, special operations, has exposed all of Congress for the last 60 years, really longer than that, but we'll do it again, last 60 years. The last 60, all they've done is exposed all of Congress for not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They've nickel and dimed you, they've Hansel and Gretel, what I call throw you a crumb along the way, and Americans, because Americans didn't know what the heck was going on with legislation, politicians were creating all these laws, putting in stuff for them, and they were governing it. And then they would go, like when one or two people would rise up and say, hey, why did you do this? Just a few, not the majority, but the few, they would be, oh, well, we did this right here. It says it right here. It was on the paper, but they weren't doing the full extent of that. They just did enough to get by through the years, right? And it was a snowball headed for hell because of finances, right? Because they were spending too much. That's why our debts, the way they are, they were spending too much than we were taking in. It's really simple economics when you know it. Like all my financial guru buddies that I talk about all the time, it's really simple in another manner if people would just listen. You can't keep creating money, printing money when you're not bringing it back in. And we had all these other nations who were spending our money with each other. And so $1, and I don't have one on me, but $1 has a serial number on it. So when China and New Zealand are using our dollar back and forth, and it's not coming back over here for us to account for it during the end of the year, and they're still spent, and we just print more, oh well, it's nothing it's coming out of your taxpayer pocket. So when you understand how a currency operates, when you create the currency, we go, okay, we have this amount of population, we need this amount of dollar, and da-da-da-da. And then you print that money and you put it in circulation. Well, that's why they tell people all the time, you got to spend money to make money, right? So that don't sit too much on your money and little things like that. Depends on who it is and what it is. But when you got other nations over here, you can't see my hand, but when you got other nations using our money with each other, serial number not accounted for, and then they just keep printing more money, not account for this over here, not account for this over here, not account for that over there, and not account. Incompetent bureaucrats, all right, and they were pocketing most of it. That's why President Trump said, they already know, we have it all, we call them all. They already know who has the money behind the Social Security. All these Social Security checks, they already know. When President Trump said, oh, it's going to be ugly, when we find out, they already know. They're just building up people who don't know yet. Because there's people behind in Social Security check that's been receiving that. They were flubbing names, putting names That's why you got to listen, but you got to know the bigger system and understand how it operates and functions. That's why liberals, boy, they look so dumb right now. Woo! Some dumbs, you know what. But let's get over here real quick. I'm going to do this. Put this on this page where I can come back to that. All right, now, listen to this. So when you look up civil affairs planning, in World War II, this is why it's so important. I'm the only person who's talked about puppet governments. All right, the only. Out of all the podcasters out there, out of all the influencers, my grandfather was the one that taught me about puppet governments. World War II. This is why World War II tactic. Puppet governments. Puppet states. All right. World War II tactic. The only thing that was consistent visually in a comm, not chief of mission, but in a optic, if you will, around Joe Biden were the insignia. Every soldier that they showed around Joe either was military intelligence, judge advocate general, or civil affairs and psychological operations. Now that sounds like two different components, but those two are together. So it's three different insignia. There was three different insignia that were around old President Biden, as people thought of. He wasn't president. He was a puppet. Puppet government. Shadow government, government exile. When you go to the unconventional warfare pocket guide, and you go to page, let's see, it's on page 10, page 8 on paper, but page 10 on the PDF, you'll see shadow government and government exile in unconventional warfare. All right. That's why when you hear President Trump say, we had to see what they were going to do. We had to see where we would know to do this. Because this, ladies and gentlemen, when a president becomes president, by our founders, by our founding fathers, by the original literature of the Constitution, by the original literature of the Declaration of Independence, by the original literature of our Federalist Papers, when a president becomes president, they're not supposed to get in there and change up the last 2 years, like spend that 2 years changing up the last whatever that president did before. You don't do that. You're supposed to, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. Like, that's what the federal is supposed to be for. That's why they made them a Continental Congress back then. They weren't full-time politicians. They didn't sit there year-round at different sessions. They only went when they had to. That's why states were more important. That's why so many people don't understand the difference in Federalists and Anti-Federalists. That wasn't because back then that they were two different parties. It was saying that, hey, we don't need full-time Federalists. We just need our states to do what our states need to do. And then when all the states collective need something on a federal, with our federal government, then you call a Congress, you call a session, and just, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida, and Texas, and this need this, and this, and that. That's what the Federalist part's for. Very simple. Well, like President Trump has said multiple times, Montana don't need what Alabama needs. Florida don't need what Texas needs. Texas don't need what New Jersey needs. That's why states are very important. And states also have constitutions as well. A lot of people don't know that. I mean, this stuff it's a lot, but it's simple once you know the terminology and you separate all the other crap that don't matter. All right. But President Trump told you he was telling you that we're a government in exile. All right. And they were seeing who was going to do what. Meaning, like, we're going to give them the leash and see what they're going to do. That's why you call it a puppet government, puppet state, government exile, shadow government. All right? And he told you, they're dumb and incompetent. But they showed you, the people that didn't know, they showed you. They showed visually and painfully in your pocketbooks, they showed you the propaganda again. They showed you what you had been used to and didn't realize it. So see, that's why it's not a bad thing that everybody's awake and some people are mad, kicking, screaming, cussing, because they're kicking, mad, screaming, cussing because they didn't realize what the rigmarole looked like before. Now they see what that is. Now they understand what the propaganda and drama was. Now they can see that. All right, and they get to decide, do I want that again? Or do I want a president who knows how to take care of business, get in there and do what has to be done, cut this, cut that, do this, and bring it home to mama and papa, right? Bring it to the U.S. Other nations can defend on their own. That's why if we can defend on our own, why can't they? So see, you got to get back into the realization and reality of how things operate and function. And liberals, it's funny what we've done to liberals. Liberals are actually polar opposite of what they used to be. We've flipped the narrative on them and they don't realize it yet. But we'll get to that in a minute. So you got to listen to President Trump. The government in exile, the shadow government, he said we had to see what they were going to do. Because they're not supposed to do that. They were not supposed to change a thing. They were not supposed to change anything by President Trump. So that showed you. But it's also a strategic plan. So if you were able to take your worst enemy and do something lawful to them that would bring them down lawfully, all right, ethically, morally, and lawfully, but you were given that to go, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to funnel them into a trap lawfully. That's what President Trump and the military has done to the deep state, the cabal, the global alliance. They never told on them along the way. They didn't tattle on them. They enforced the laws and they funneled all these people down. That's what you're watching. That's why it's important before we move to this next thing right here. So this is civil affairs planning. So you heard your joint publication, civil and military operations. So for all the people out there, we're going to get to that in a minute. For all the people who say, oh, you know, that the military can't operate with civilian, yes, we most certainly can. All right, so I'm going to read that to you and break that down again. Then we'll hop over to the civil planning. But you got to know that civil planning and the psychological operations was one of those insignias that were around old Joe. All right, so military intelligence, Joe the Advocate General, civil affairs, and psychological operations. They go together. Now let's read again from Joint Publication 3-57. Now watch this. When people say military cannot work with civilian operations, they're crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. All right. Our military was founded first in this nation. Don't let anybody say anything else. Nothing otherwise. All right, now watch. 3-57, page 46. Per the Posse Comitatus Act and the Department of Defense regulations, the United States is generally prohibited from employing Title 10 United States Code, Department of Defense forces to provide direct military involvement to enforce the law of the United States unless expressly authorized by the Constitution or Congress. See, it's telling you that they generally don't want the regular armed forces in civilian operations. That's true. You don't generally want that. But during rebellion, invasion of public safety, Article 1 and Article 2, so your legislative, suspending the Constitution, and your president's authority in Article 2 of the Constitution, sometimes it's necessary. It tells you right there, unless authorized by the Constitution or Congress. Oh, well, there you go. Guess what Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 is? The writ of habeas corpus, the suspension clause. Well, guess what took place in March 2020? Congress suspended the Constitution. Under what? Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, December the 2019, in the first 180 days clause. It's in reports of Congress from President Trump, August 28, 2020, the Military Justice Act. So it tells you right there, unless authorized by the Constitution or Congress. Well, you have full-fledged proof of that. Why is it in mainstream articles that, oh, they're going to suspend the Constitution, they're going to terminate it? No, they didn't terminate it, they suspended it. Get the terminology correct. They told you what took place right there. That is your full validation right there that the Constitution was suspended. We went to a military government. Now, I can make an argument that we were already a military government, but by visuals, this is what they did. Title 10. So Executive Order 13912, when President Trump federalized 1 million reserve components active duty, those reserves who only serve a federal mission, only, March 27, 2020, he invoked Title 10, Section 12302. That Executive Order 13919 that gave the direct authority to the Secretary of Defense, the federalization authority of the Selective Reserve. That invoked Title 10, Section 12304. The only person who can federalize the National Guard and reserve components active duty is the President of the United States of America. Title 10. That's your Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is military law. That's why it pays to know it. And you can't have one Title 10 without the other. So any veteran out there who's sleepy right now, wake your ass up. All right, you raise your right hand to section 502 of guess what title? 10. So you can't have one Title 10 without the other. So when you hear all these BS veterans out there talking about veterans against Trump, you're an idiot. You're a communist and a traitor and a disgrace to the United States military. If you are against President Trump, you are absolutely ignorant and or asleep. And if you're ignorant and asleep, wake your butt up. But if you're just straight up ignorant because you're a communist and you didn't serve for the right reasons, you should have your DD-214 stripped. And I'm not apologizing for saying that, and never will. Because all the men and women who have fought and died for this nation, who gave the ultimate sacrifice for this nation, you're shitting on their graves when you do so. Because President Trump has done every single thing in a military operation, military government. First off, it's a unique operation in the first place. He is not acting as a president alone. So it shows these people are ignorant and or self-absorbed and just want to comment in the comment box sometimes. Civil affairs. All right, so now we're going to hop back over to the ATP 3-57.60. All right, we're going to read about civil affairs really quick. Interagency planning for foreign territory. 4-19. You can look this up on page 82. I have these posted, but I'll repost these again on my pages that allow me to post. When United States forces are conducting operations on foreign territory, they may be exercising military authority of the United States under Title 10 or Title 50, or they may be subordinate to a U.S. ambassador or special envoy under Title 22. The U.S. ambassador has a primacy where the United States has established embassy or diplomatic mission. So it talks about your chief of mission again. That's your ambassador. All right, so that's key on that. Now, I'm going to read this, which is fun. This is your United States Special Operations Command. So SOCOM.mil, your official Special Operations Command.mil. I'm going to read this really quick. Unconventional warfare. Guess what the definition is? Actions to enable a resistance movement or insurgency to coerce or disrupt or overthrow a government or occupying power. Again, the definition on Special Operations Command.mil, official website, core activities of special recon, unconventional warfare, civil affairs operations, counterterrorism, etc. It's got all these definitions of your core operations. Unconventional warfare definition again. Actions to enable a resistance movement or insurgency to coerce, disrupt, or overthrow a government or occupying power. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a huge difference. Hear me if you hear anything. Listen. There's a huge difference in military overthrowing the government than government people, your cabal, etc., doing a hostile takeover in another kind of manner. All right, civil wars, etc., wherever you want to look at it. There's a huge difference in military doing things lawfully as prescribed in military law and federal law. There's a huge difference, and that's what you're witnessing. It's all there. All right. Now, I'm going to go back to the Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide that was put out April 2016, the new publication. As I've shown you over and over, it will do everybody listening, especially you new, to go to page 11 and look at the pyramid. It's called a resistance pyramid. It was put out in 1966. They changed it up in 2016. They changed a couple of words up. One key word can show you the whole thing: validity. Validation like nobody's business, especially if you've been listening to me and you follow along. Validity. But before I get to that, I'm going to read these 7 phases. All right, first off, before we get to the 7 phases, let's go back. On page 10 of the Unconventional Warfare Under Government and Exile, it specifically says this for you. Most or all of the representative activities will be conducted by a successful resistance or insurgency regardless of whether the United States government makes the policy decision to support it. Meaning military can act whether the government wants to or not. They can lead, follow, or get the hell out the way. That's what that's saying. United States government support to resistance, unconventional warfare, is initiated by either a presidential finding or an executive order. Listen to that again. Most or all of the representative activities will be conducted by a successful resistance or insurgency regardless of whether the United States government makes the policy decision to support it. United States government to support resistance, unconventional warfare, is initiated by either a presidential finding or executive order. President Trump's executive order to federalize 1 million reserve components, along with Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, along with all the other executive are unique executive orders. They're not just your normal executive orders. All right, that's why it's very key. And then the actions of Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2, the writ of habeas corpus, suspension of the Constitution, means we went into a military government. That's when the federal government stepped down. Means they support it. But they stepped down and let the military government take over. That military governor. What was Eisenhower titled? Military governor. All right. Supreme commander. That's what President Trump is. Supreme commander. A military governor. All right. That's why he jokes about another 4 years and another 4 years. All right. And the liberals go crazy because they try to say he's acting like a king. No, it's because they don't know military laws. They don't know military orders. They don't know special operations. They don't know anything of the intricacies of the military. And a lot of Americans don't either. And a lot of blue-collar, hardworking, Republican, conservative, patriot, president-loving supporters, President Trump, don't know the intricacies of special operations, the intricacies of military. You may love and support the military as a whole, but you got to know the intricacies. If you really want to know what's going on, you really want to love this man even more, that right there is a full-fledged operation. Full-fledged. It wasn't a 4-year presidency and a this and that. It's a full-fledged operation. And it tells you right there that it don't matter if the United States government supports it or not. When the military steps in and we say enough's enough, you better lead, follow, or get the hell out the way. Because we're going to make the way. And you're going to go by it because we care about you. All right? I don't care if you're gay, straight, atheist, Buddhist, whatever the heck you are. I'm not going to let anybody hurt you. All right? But our nation was founded on Christian and Judeo-Christian principles, values, etc. All right, our nation was founded a certain way. We're unique for a reason. The Constitution's unique for a reason. The Declaration's unique for a reason. But the Constitution would not have birth or life without the Declaration of Independence. And the Declaration of Independence wouldn't have birth or life without our founders starting the Revolutionary War. So people better get this stuff straight. All right. So we can stay in the military government as long as we need to until people get right and start acting right. So that's why it matters to get in line and fall in line correctly. The same thing with all the influencers out there. You need to stand down. If you don't want to talk about this and give credit where it's due, all right, you need to stand down. That's what military tells you. Stand your ass down. You need to step down. All right, because this is a full-fledged military operation. And all this propaganda and all this regurgitation, stirring people up, getting people's emotions all distraught, you're acting no different than the liberals and communists and fascists and Marxists and all that. You're doing no different. Executive order, presidential finding, special operations, doesn't matter if the government comes on board or not. It tells you right there, everything. Now let's read the 7 phases and then we'll hop back. The 7 phases, steady state. First off, that's not part 1, that's just your steady state. The status quo between nation states as established and maintained by the instruments of national power, regional and international relations. This state establishes the conditional norm or defaulting setting which, left unchanged, will predictably continue to the future. Now listen as we go through the 7 phases. Phase 1. Resistance and external sponsors conduct psychological preparation to unify population against established government or occupying power and prepare population to accept United States support. Phase 2 is called initial contact. United States government agencies coordinate with allied government in exile or resistance leadership for desired United States support. Phase 3 is called infiltration. Special Forces teams infiltrates operational area, establishes communications with its base, and contacts resistance organization. Phase 4. Special Forces team organizes, trains, and equips resistance cadre. Emphasis on developing infrastructure. Phase 5, called build-up. SF team assists cadre with expansion into effective resistance organization. Limited combat operations may be conducted, but emphasis remains on development. Phase 6. Unconventional warfare forces conduct combat operations until link up with conventional forces or end of hostilities. Phase 7. It's called transition. Unconventional warfare forces revert to national control, shifting regular forces or demobilizing. All right, and what took place just a few days ago, March 26th? Space Force, single quotations, transitioning SATCOM contracts from DISA. And we're going to get to that in a minute. We're going to come back to that. But you hear the term transitioning. What's that last phase say? Transition phase. Unconventional warfare forces revert to national control, shifting regular forces or demobilizing. All right. And what's been taking place in Israel? They've been bombing the hell out of Iran, etc. I mean, they've told people that, and people ain't been paying attention. They took out some nuclear facilities over there. All right. Israel. We'll get to Israel here shortly. But before we get to Israel, let's go back up to... No, we'll go to Israel right now. While we're on Israel. Israel, 2018. President Trump is the first president to implement an underground subterranean warfare all-out strategic plan. We've had tunnel rats in the 70s, what they call tunnel rats, and all throughout the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, there were guys who would go in tunnels and things. But there's never been a strategic blueprint plan for subterranean warfare and that kind of underground warfare. A strategic plan, meaning here's how we normally operate and here's what can happen, all that. Unconventional warfare, subterranean warfare, underground facilities. In 2018, mainstream articles started putting out that the United States Army, my beloved branch, Army was spending $572 million training our soldiers for our next wars would be inside megacities, but not inside them, but beneath them. Mainstream media started telling you that. Fast forward to 2019. 2019. August 2019, more specifically. President Trump, they started hammering these big pharma. Jonhson & Jonhson, state of Oklahoma. By the way, state of Oklahoma is the most Republican conservative state. Every county went red this year. Every single county was red. That's amazing. All right. Especially Native American tribes. A lot of the Native American tribes don't vote red. That's very, very amazing that the whole state of Oklahoma was red. State of Oklahoma, opioids case, hammers Jonhson & Jonhson, forced to pay $572 million. Oh, what a coincidence that is. Not $580 million, not $500. $572 million. Guess what they were busted for? Opioids. Oh, President Trump has an executive order in February 2017 combating opioids. What a coincidence that is. And what a coincidence that President Trump is the one who says, we're not paying for it anymore, somebody else will. Oh, what a coincidence that is. And then May 2019, you go over to an officer. Ladies, female officer wrote this, beautiful subterranean warfare, war college. So this is what they were showing the commanders, what they were teaching the commanders, subterranean warfare. This female officer wrote this amazing paper with a title in there. It says Israel, and it says Egypt and Gaza cross-border operations. And then it says $572 million. And then Canada's military defense puts out their publications in 2019 and 2020. It says, we support United States and Israel operations. United States spending $572 million. What a coincidence that is. And then, from October the 7th to 14th, 2023, when they told you the war started in Israel, they made all these new dates under President Trump for a reason. They made a new date with Ukraine. They made a new date with Israel. They made a new date with Doge. They made a new date for one reason. President Trump gets all the credit for it. He's going to get all the credit for ending all these things and or implementing whatever it is, the clean out. So it's a clean out or an ending, whatever they are. They made new dates for a reason. That way, the original date when the actual Ukraine war started, all those people won't say, I was a part of that. No, you weren't. Nope. You lied to the American people. You prolonged this. You aided that. That date was cast aside. Same thing with Israel. They made a new date for a reason. They established a new date. Because, again, you either got to stand on one side or not. Either you believe that Ukraine and Russia are in a war with each other like the media painted it, even though I can show you it's all theater, 47 U.S. Code Section 606. Or, what was Ukraine and Russia doing in Israel at the same time? That wouldn't work like that. If they were in a war, they wouldn't be in another nation at the same time, because I have all the photo evidence. I've posted it. From October the 7th to October the 14th, 1 week, my friend Siggy Flicker, who is taking it to all these anti-Jews right now, all these people who don't have a clue what's going on in Israel, she loves this when I break this down this fast. In 1 week's time, this is who was in Israel. Little bitty Israel. Romania, Bulgaria, Australia, New Zealand, Sweden, United Kingdom, Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, United States, Japan, Thailand, Ukraine, Russia, Germany, United Arab Emirates, all right, Tunisia, Algeria. What are all these nations doing in Israel in 1 week's time? If they weren't all capitulated with President Trump. All these nations are either Abraham Accords or capitulated to President Trump. India, etc. Ukraine and Russia? In Israel? At the same time period? It's all been planned, ladies and gentlemen. You just got to know where to look. Now, let's go back to the one word that changed. So if you go back to 1966, I've posted this. You can see the resistance pyramid that the Special Operations Command put up. 1966. They reissued their new publication, 2016, Unconventional Warfare. It's all outlined so well and so detailed again. So this pyramid, all right, it's on page 11. And it talks about your public components, your armed components, overt operations, clandestine operations. And the one key word that changed, one key word is so awesome, and it's the absolute validity. So remember this, y'all remember this, those of you who hung with me. Last year, especially Facebook are laggards. Sorry, some of y'all are. You just got to be told that way. Oh my Lord. Boy, you talking about people falling out because Derek Jonhson said the assassination was planned and it was rigged. Sorry, it's all special operations. So if you either understand special operations and want to, or you can still be the negative riffraff. And if you're the negative riffraff on that, then you shouldn't believe in anything. Because it wasn't a publicity stunt. It's an operation. All right, and you got to see the bigger picture, the 40,000 foot view. You got to see this before you can henpeck anything. All right, because I show the whole operation and I have all the validity checkpoints. And President Trump has validated me to Tulsa and back, to Pluto and back. Whatever you believe in space, whatever the farthest star is away, even if it's only 100,000 miles, it don't matter. He's validated me 1,000,000 times back. And it ain't about me, but it's for you. And when I get validated, you get validated. That's how this works. All right, so the assassination on July 13th last year, all right, it's all part of the operation. And those of you who let your emotions and feelings get in the way over a firefighter and all that other stuff, you fell for it. All right, again, separate your emotions, divorce your feelings, get into the tactical level of it, and then you'll be able to comprehend it. It's perfect. It's perfect for resetting the whole candor of everything. You had to reset the whole dynamic of the world. You have to reset everything. And it was a validity checkpoint as well to see how many people would actually respond to it. So it's okay that some people got mad and bitter and angry and mad, wanted to fight and, kick and like, I'm going to whoop their tail or mess with my guy or mess with my president. That's fine. But to someone like me, if you want to get over here, like that's the whatever percentile, whatever number that is. If you want to get to the real tiny percentile that actually knows what's going on and that was a tactic, then you can, because it's right here. 1966 resistance pyramid. They changed one letter, very key letter, in the 2016 that absolutely proves that that assassination was all part of the grand plan. One, President Trump told you. He said, they tackled me so damn hard I fell out of my... He didn't get tackled. He fell down on his own. All right? The blood was running this way. You can tell the difference in real blood and fake blood. And no amount of sweat will make that blood look that real. No. Blood is thick. All right? It's not going to look watery like that. Also, no blood on his hands. When you go in on the picture, there was no blood on his hands when he's on the ground. You can see in the huddle. There's no blood on his hands. There's lots and lots and lots of blood. No, it wasn't lots and lots of... No, I'm not calling President Trump a liar. See, that's the difference in people listening. See, what I'm trying to tell you is that no, it's all optics. Those are all comms. That's telling you it's not real. The Special Operations Command publication shows you it was tactical. It's all part of the operation. So see, that's where people don't listen. They hear what they want to hear and then they get mad, all right, because of their emotions and their feelings. So until people learn to divorce those and want to get to the tactical level of it, they're always going to respond that way. And nothing I can do to help those people. But he didn't get tackled. All right, he didn't get knocked out of his shoes like that. All right, the other thing was this ball cap right here. This ball cap. Secret Service had this ball cap in their hand as they're protecting him. This ball cap wouldn't mean a thing if your president was getting shot at, no matter who the president is. Even if you shouldn't absolutely hate anybody, but if you strongly dislike somebody, you still would not be doing it. This would not be top priority for Secret Service to be holding in their hand the whole time they were moving President Trump. There was little things that showed you the whole time. They showed another guy down there crouched down, right? Got a Secret Service guy trying to huddle somebody, and the rest of the crowd looking up. And he was in a spot where nothing would have gotten him if there was a real situation. Like, so when you observe the angles and everything that they were showing you, and they got people, and people didn't run away. President Trump told you, he said experts tell you crowds like that normally go crazy. And these people are standing up. You're not going to stand up if there are bullets ringing out. The average person's not going to do that. And they showed the whole audience going, no. I mean, they showed you the whole, like, there were so many things you could pick apart. But this right here, 1966, it said agitation, comma, forming favorable public opinion, parentheses, advocating national cause, close parentheses, comma, creation of distrust of established institutions. That was 1966. They changed one word up in it. And they kept agitation in 2016 in the sentence above, but on this line, guess what it says? Assassination, comma, forming favorable public opinion, parentheses, advocating national cause, close parentheses, comma, creation and distrust of established institutions. So from 1966, agitation was the word. 2016, they changed agitation to assassination. Did it form a favorable public opinion? Yep, sure did. Because people got pissed and mad and angry, and they looked, oh, well. And even a lot of Democrats were like, violence is not the answer on our president. Bingo. All right. Then it says advocating national cause. Well, did it stay within the boundaries of Pennsylvania, or did it go over into Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Wyoming, California, Oregon, Washington, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine? Did it do that? Did it hit all the other states? Yes, it did. It advocated a national cause. It didn't stay within Pennsylvania and Penn State Nittany Lions and the Pittsburgh Penguins or the Philadelphia Flyers or the Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles or the Pittsburgh Steelers. No, it went national. It advocated a national. Checkmate. Creation of distrust of established institutions. Did rednecks, hillbillies, country folk, Republicans, conservatives, patriots, did they get pissed and mad? Did they get mad at the FBI and the Secret Service? Checkmate, checkmate. All right. But then they chose you the next week. July 24th, they had the director of the Secret Service in under questioning with Congress. And they asked her a question. Did President Trump receive the same security he would have received as a sitting president? She said, well, and then they cut her off. He interrupted her. But she said it to you. She said a continuity of government. What was old Biden doing, revoking Executive Order 13961 on January the 19th, 2025? If he was president, he had the same power and authority on January the 20th, 2021, and every day in between, all the way to January the 12th to 19th, 2025, as he would have had that day. What's he doing revoking the continuity of government on the last full day of his quote-unquote presidency? Continuity of government. That's exactly what Executive Order 13961 is and was and invoked. Federal Continuity Directive 1, Federal Continuity Directive 2. It's all there. And now we get to tie in. I got two more phases here. So, President Trump signed another executive order just this past week for election interference. Oh, this is going to be fun. And inside that executive order, it talks about Title 3, Title 18, and Title 52. Or 3 United States Code, 18 United States Code, 52 United States Code. So this is where you get a which one is it question. This is where a line's drawn in the sand in the middle, and you get to choose what side you're on. Which one is it? All right, so the only thing that liberals cling to are January the 6th, 2021. This is why it's so important for Republicans, conservatives, patriots to know your laws and orders, because you can put them in their place so quick. You'd say, okay, I got a question for you. Which one is it? That's all you got to do. Slang it up. Say, all right, which one is it? You get either or. Can't sit on the fence, though. It's one or the other. All right? So they claim that January 6th, President Trump did all that. No. They don't want to see the FBI and all that stuff. They don't want to see the operation, the bigger picture. They don't even know that it exists. Most of them hate the military in the first place, so there's that. All right? But even for the rhinos out there. So January the 6th, 2021. The first time in United States history the whole world as a jury, but you, the Americans, as the front row jury. All right, you're the main jury because it's America. All right, it's pretty bad though that other nations know more about our special operation taking place right now than Americans do. But that's fine. Hey, it proves American education is piss poor, pathetic. But it is what it is. We got our work cut out. So on January the 6th, the first time in United States history, 2 objections took place. In the state of Arizona count, 2 objections. All right, and I didn't pull it up, and I should have, but let's see if I can get it right here real quick. Let me get this out of the way. 3 U.S. Code 15. Pull this up really fast. It don't take long. We'll just read the last sentence because the last sentence is very, very important. All right. And this thing's like that long. Let's see. That long. It specifically says, no votes or papers from any other state shall be acted upon until the objections previously made to the votes or papers from any states shall have been finally disposed of. So this is where the either or comes in. So now President Trump has a new executive order for election interference, and it's talking about voter ID and this, that, and other, what it's going to be like from here out voting, what you're going to have to show, right? So let's go back, though. So Executive Order 13848, there's one I haven't talked about in a while, one of my favorites, but Executive Order 13848, September the 12th, 2018. Declared a national emergency. That's one of those 8 that Joe continued by President Trump 4 years in a row. And inside that order it says, although no foreign power has altered the outcome or vote tabulation in any United States election. That's very important because January the 6th is the date set aside to certify the president. Vote tabulation. What took place on January the 6th, 2021? There were 2 objections in the state of Arizona. Conveniently, as soon as those objections took place, conveniently, the quote-unquote insurrection took place. Conveniently, 2 20,000-pound doors each open from the inside, meaning somebody unlocked those and opened those. All right. Now, I know it's all the strategic plan and operation. They funneled these people down, put them in a trap. They trapped them. All right. But right there, 3 United States codes. So there's your Title III right there. So you either believe in Title III, Title 18, and Title 52, or you don't. But the way you catch a liberal in hypocrisy, which that's all they are, is you go, okay, so you think that President Trump did that, but let's just play devil's advocate for a moment. Let's just play neutral. Let's play I don't know what I know. Let's take the military out of it. Let's take the strategic plan out of it. Let's just go straight up to January the 6th. What's supposed to take place on January 6th? Why January 6th exists? It's the date of certification day for all the states to certify the president. So let's pretend I don't know what I know and go, okay, Joe Biden was going to be president. Let's say that, okay, he won the electoral votes. Let's say that. Let's say there was no discrepancy in 2020. Let's just go with straight up that. If Joe, no cheating or anything, if Joe won the electoral college, and if the delegates did what they were supposed to do, and they put their votes in for certification day, then Joe was going to be president no matter what. So it didn't matter what Arizona would have done. What they would have done in a normal setting, if that would have been a real setting, when those objections took place, it tells you right here in 3 United States Code, Section 15, what to do when objections take place. They are to stop the vote. Stop. They go into a special chamber, and they figure out why there were objections. If it goes past January the 20th, 2021, which January the 20th period, if it's just a regular J6, we don't even have to use 2021. If the voting did not start back up and they were figuring out the discrepancy after the January the 20th, then the sitting vice president then will become president until they figured out who was the winner. So it don't matter that it would have gone past January the 20th. Now, we've never had that happen in history, but that is what takes place. So if Joe was going to be president, the votes would have been there no matter what. So the liberals and Democrats, if they knew for fact that Joe had won the Electoral College as a whole, then the state of Arizona wouldn't have held that up, because Arizona wouldn't have been the state that decided all things. All right? Because according to them, it wasn't close. It wasn't a close election, according to them. Now, we're playing devil's advocate. Keep in mind again, don't get in the comment box about 2020 and all that. Listen to what I'm saying. If Joe had the votes, that one state was not going to affect that unless there would have been other objections that took place, which there would have been, because we know Arizona, Michigan, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Nevada. We know the 7 swing states. Why were the 7? That told you right there too. This was all a plan. This was all an operation, because the same swing states in 2020 were the same swing states in 2024. That alone right there tells you, without even knowing military, that no way, Jose, would there be the same 7 states as your swing states in 2 different elections. No way. That alone tells you. But we're playing devil's advocate. If Joe would have had all the other votes in all the other states, Arizona wouldn't have held that up. The only thing that would have held it up was going into the special chamber until they figured out what the heck happened with Arizona. Which shows you alone right there. That shows you. All right. It was an operation. And so when they came back in, remember Nancy Pelosi on TV? Oh, it's so disturbing, and oh, it's so distraught. It was so distraught and disturbing that they went right back in. They didn't stop the count with Arizona. They didn't go into a special chamber. They went straight from Arizona to Wyoming, certified Joe. Congress, the world as a jury, but you Americans as a jury, watch Congress break Title III, Section 15. Because they didn't do what was prescribed right here. No votes or papers from any state shall be acted upon until the objections previously made to the votes from any papers from any state shall be finally disposed of. There's that. Title 18 in President Trump's new executive order. Title 18 is your Title 18. That's your federal crimes and criminal procedures. Well, Congress violated 18 United States Code 2381, 2384, and 2385. Like I said earlier, there's a difference in military law taking over and overthrowing the government than it is your own elected officials trying to overthrow the government, which is 2381, 2384, and 2385 of Title 18. And then 52 United States Code 20511 added to it, all right, another part of criminal procedures, etc. So you either believe in Title 3, Title 18, or Title 52, or you don't. Because if you do, that's part of our amended portions of the Constitution, right? And so when Bernie Sanders and all these people out there, even though I know we're still in operations, but for the people that don't know that, when they saying to know the Constitution, when they use the word Constitution, well, I'm quoting straight from it. I'm quoting what's supposed to take place that didn't take place. So which one is it? Which one do you believe in? Right? J6 a lot of liberals are atheists. They hate Christians, and they hate when Christians cherry pick from the Bible. So why are they cherry picking one day out of a military operation? Perhaps because they don't know anything about the military operation. Perhaps because they don't know anything about the military. Perhaps because they don't know anything about special operations. Perhaps because they don't know the Constitution. Perhaps because they don't know the Declaration of Independence. Perhaps because they don't know anything about our foundation. Checkmate. So, January the 6th, that's what took place that day. They, quote unquote, even though I know it's an operation for the people that don't, for the people viewing, they saw a quote unquote insurrection take place in the state of Arizona camp with the two objections. First time in U.S. history, then the insurrection took place, and then they rushed back in. Old Nancy is so distraught, but they were so distraught, they kept counting the votes. They did not stop the votes. Then, what's taking place now is even more beautiful. President Trump's hammering all these big law firms. All right, massive law firms. All right, he's signing executive orders over law firms. And he's revoking their clearances. It won't even mention about a SCIF, so special compartmentalized information. All right, that's even bigger. All right, a SCIF means you're going to it'd be like a little building you can go into, and it's communication proof, meaning everything in there stays in there. Nothing gets out. That was in one of President Trump's recent. So he's put all these executive orders out over these law firms. But a couple of these law firms have done what? The liberals' heroes are folding. Oh, they're folding. You got to know when to hold them. Know when to fold them. They're all folding. So see, when a law firm is being caught, as they have, and President Trump caught them, and then they come over here and say, hey, we'll give you $100 million in legal, lawful services to whomever. President Trump just put that out, that one law firm's giving $100 million in services to veterans. Wow, that's big. That also will include homeless veterans as well. Getting homeless off the streets. A lot of people got to think outside the box. That's exactly what that's doing. Lawful services to veterans, all kinds of veterans, etc. When a law firm that big does that, ladies and gentlemen, you know what that's called? A capitulation. It's also a plea deal. When you think of law now, so the liberals' heroes are folding right in front of them. And all these law firms that President Trump have done this to, and the two that have capitulated, saying, hey, we'll give you legal services, are the very ones who wrote the fake dossier. They're the very ones who created all this lawfare against President Trump, right? So when they take this plea deal, you know what they're telling you? You know what a plea deal is, don't you? A plea deal means you're guilty. And you're taking a plea deal, meaning I'll take a deal, I know I'm innocent, but you don't know that, and y'all think I'm guilty. So a plea deal means that, okay, I'll do what you want me to do, just as long as you don't do this, this, and this to me. All right? That's what's taking place. And it's the very law firm, one of them that offered services is the very law firm that President Trump stripped security clearance from Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, multiple people. One of the people he stripped security clearances from, if you go read his biography, constitutional this, and you would think that this guy poops pure gold poop. Republicans, conservatives, read this guy's resume. A typical Republican, not a patriot Republican, not a conservative patriot, but your typical rhino Republican who still have their hand in the sand and all the other stuff, would read this guy's bio and think, man, this guy is a conservative Republican. He's all about the Constitution, and he's got this and this and that. They would think he's shit gold. All right? So that's why I told people all the time, if you don't know the people up here, see the people up here, President Trump, the generals, etc., they know who the good and the bad are up here on these levels. You don't. Stop trying to act like you do. Stop trying to say so-and-so's good. So you don't know them. Same thing when people judge me. If you don't know me personally, you can't judge me. Just because someone's famous or popular or not, you don't know that person. You don't know jack doo-doo.
So it'd be no different if I came up to you on the street and said, hey, you're a garbage piece of trash and I don't know you from the... You'd be like, what in the world? You don't know me. Exactly. So why do you do it to other people? Just because they're famous? That don't mean anything. That's the worst thing you can do. Oh, again, if you're good and you're a good person, that's why all these evil players and these corrupt players, guess what? They don't know who the good guys are. They don't know who the good secret military can intertwine right in midst with you, and you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know what all is being retained. Just think someone like me can remember so much. Just think what I've heard in my lifetime. Just think of the people I've been around that I've... See, and that's why it goes back to the fruits of the labor, the fruits of the Spirit. That's why the Bible is important. You can tell the fruits by knowing the fruits. That's why it's important. So the other thing that you've seen in President Trump with these law firms is this. It's very important. The terminology. There's a huge difference in revoking and suspending. Revoking clearance, ladies and gentlemen, means we already have everything on you. When you revoke clearance, that means there's already been an investigation. That means the findings have already been investigated in order to go, you're out of here. Done. Suspension means that there's still investigation ongoing. Revoking means the investigation has already taken place. They already had the information. They already had everything they needed to go, yep, we have enough. You're done. Or you're fired. Bye, Felicia. Remember the Little Rascals? Bye, Felicia. We got everything on you. Done. And that's these law firms, the Perkins Coie, right? Hillary, Kamala, Joe, revoked security clearance. Now, I know that that's already taken place a long time ago, but for the people that don't know that and are seeing that in live time, that's what that means. It's already happened, but that's what that means. Also, President Trump. Someone mentioned this on mainstream media just a few days ago, and it was, so mainstream media does a few little things here and there, but they don't show you the how. They just show you a little bitty tiny bit. But one of them said, is this President Trump doing things on purpose to make the Supreme Court act? Bingo! Remember the assassination again? Well, guess what? 4 months before the quote-unquote assassination, President Trump put in a docket case with the United States Supreme Court March the 19th, 2024. 4 months before the quote-unquote assassination that talks about assassinations. Executive Order 11905 from Gerald Ford and Executive Order 12333 from Ronald Reagan. 12333. 12333. So 3 threes. Which is a heavenly number, by the way, if you don't know anything about the threes. All right, but heavenly number. So March the 19th, executive order, and it has 3 amici curiae in there. Amici curiae are friends of the courts, Latin for friends of the court. All right, 3 amici curiae. Well, you go read about those. Guess who one of them is? Who just got appointed to be ambassador to Ukraine? Former General Keith Kellogg, who was with President Trump in North Carolina last fall, and he said, I'd like to acknowledge someone who's been with me before all of this. That's why terminology matters. Before all of what? President Trump, can you define what this is? What do you mean this? See, so if the average person heard that, oh, you're just calling all this gas prices and eggs and food, you just calling this a this? He's telling you right there, it's all in operation. This general's been with before all of this. Keith Kellogg, America First Foundation. Keith Kellogg, guess who he is? The editor of the what? The 2017 National Security Strategy. The only and most recent National Security Strategy on the Department of Defense.mil. Where's Joe Biden's 2022? Again, brought this up earlier. Where's Joe Biden? Oh, because it's not even on an archive page. I'm just showing you how the military works. Department of the State, State Department, 2021 to 2025. Where is it? The archive page for the State Department shows President Trump as your last. 2017 to 2021. And it tells you up top that this is the 2021-2025. Where's Biden? Where's Biden's name at? Where is it? And the current State Department website shows you that it's currently suspended. Suspended. What's that suspension clause again? the Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 of the Constitution. That Constitution that Bernie Sanders tells you need to read, tells the president he needs to read it. It's so much fun. It's so easy once you know it. It's so easy. And it's funny and it's humorous. Because you're going to live through it. So all these people, people are dying. People die every day. I'm going to die. You're going to die. But talking about death is like so mind-blowing. People's like, people are dying, dear Jonhson. How can you be so insensitive? Because I'm going to live through this. You're going to live through it. I'm going to die somewhere in the future. Oh, my Lord. Oh, Chicken Little. The world's falling on me. Pretty sure Hank Williams had a pretty nice little song called I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive. And I'm pretty sure it's pretty accurate. I have yet to see anybody stay here as, long as they want it. Pretty sure this little thing in my chest right here is going to stop ticking one day. Whether it be a car hits me or, I hit a bridge or, something. Or it's just going to stop somehow. Man, people, it's so funny. So, if you want to go to UnitedStatesSupremeCourt.gov, pull up the site, docket search, type in Donald J. Trump. So, Donald J. Trump. That's how it pulls up. 23-939 has so many main documents. There are so many things President Trump has filed with the United States Supreme Court. The other cool thing about 2020, getting back to that, why did President Trump file for the United States Supreme Court of Texas versus the states of Michigan, Wisconsin? Has President Trump ever lived in Texas? Nope. Which goes back to, and this is how you tie it all in, January 2021, when the whole world and liberals thought J6 was real and all the chaos and all the military going in and out of D.C. and all the January the 2021 and the 3 cannons for Biden, which is a funeral, not a 21 gun salute, all the chaos of January 20. Guess what was put out? A continuity manager plan, a continuity guide, another one. All right, under your FCD1, FCD2. It's called Reconstitution of the Executive Branch. There's that reconstitution word that you saw over there in the civil military operations. So there's that reconstitution. All right? Reconstitution of the executive branch. Now, April the 2nd. So we're basically 3 days away, but, we can call it 2 because we're almost at the end of this one. So, April the 2nd, President Trump tells you it's Liberation Day. Now, a lot of you think it's because of the tariffs. Well, okay, you can go with that because that's a financial thing. But April the 2nd, 1792 was the Coin Act. It made silver the lawful tender. And then it says what? Seat of government. On the Coin Act, Wikipedia, go look at that because they have the best for that. Seat of government. January 2021, this continuity reconstitution of the executive branch, 2.3 in it says, when Congress cannot establish the seat of government in Washington, D.C., Congress and their enumerated powers will get with the states to reestablish a new seat of government. Why did they give Washington, D.C. a foreign territory electoral votes this year? Why does President Trump always talk about Washington, D.C., that we're cleaning up the crime in Washington, D.C.? How come he never talks about Chicago, New York, LA, Dallas, different places, Atlanta, that needs the city? Why does he put an emphasis on Washington, D.C. as we're cleaning up the crime in the Washington, D.C.? People are being shot every day in Washington, D.C. And then you have reconstitution of the executive branch, seat of government, April the 2nd, Coin Act, seat of government, April the 2nd, President Trump's mouth, Liberation Day for the United States, entering the golden age. It's all there, ladies and gentlemen. It's all there. It's all there. It's all in the chronological blueprint. That's why these things are #1 bestsellers, because y'all made them that. Ladies did. There's a few men in there, but there are a lot of ladies. Now look at the difference. Get your feet wet. Dive into the pool. And see, this thing right here, it ain't as bad as it looks. It's actually a lot of just short. You can see a lot of photos. It's not a lot of heavy reading. It looks like it. It's not. But then it dives right back here. Right on back, all that right there. See all that heavy reading? That's your heaviest. That right there is your Title 10 and Title 50. Your special operations. And I do what President Trump calls the weave. I weave in and out how he did it, how they did it, but also lawfully with the laws in the chronological order. Because again, and I'm going to repeat it like a broken record, this is how dumb liberals look right now. And I know people don't like the word dumb and stupid and lazy and complacent, but you have to call a spade sometimes. Now, the ultimate goal is to save as many people as possible. It's to win people, as many as possible. No matter how dumb they are, ignorant they are, kicking, cussing, screaming, mad, angry, bitter, frustrated, no matter how they are. That's why it takes a special kind of person, resiliency, but also tenacity. But you got to know what you're talking about. That's why I get more frustrated for you. I'm not at you. I get frustrated for you because there's too many people out there trying to be people. They're just, oh my God, I just want to tell the truth. And no, this is a military operation, military first. If you look like an idiot as an influencer, stand to, you know what, down. Stand down. This ain't for you. This ain't for that right now. This ain't no social media political game. This ain't, oh, let me build up a base and let me be a face and a name. No, this is a military operation. Laws and orders matter first. Propaganda and drama and all that bullcrap's got to go. It's got to go, man. So this is how you get people. Just a few little things. The Logan Act is a great example. This is how you get, if you have any liberal friends, I don't. But when I'm somewhere and someone says, can you break this down to my friend really quick? I go, yeah. There's 3 things I can get you with. 1, military straight out the gate. 3 cannons at Arlington is not a 21-gun salute. 3 cannons at Arlington is a funeral. Military funeral. All right? They've already given you a bookend on that. Every president from 2017 back to Nixon that they show on YouTube, 1969, so it's 4 cannons, 21 rounds fired in the National Capital Region. Commissioned officer present. Real simple. The 3rd Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard, they're known as the Presidential Salute Battery. They're the oldest Army unit. Oldest in the Army. 1784. That's unprecedented already in itself. They're not going to get that wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Then President Trump, they did this backwards. They did Arlington on January the 19th, not when he raised his right hand and did the review of the troops. That's what they call a review of the troops. They did show that. They showed him walking around the troops with the general. They did show the review of the troops. But They didn't go straight over to Arlington on January the 20th. They did it the 19th, a focal point. Did they show you the cannons that day? No, they didn't. Are the cannons always at Arlington? Yes, they are. Did they show them to you? No, they didn't. For a reason. January the 20th, 2025. President Trump, 4 cannons, commissioned officer present, military intelligence headband, National Capital Region, 21 gun salute. So there's an outlier. So you have all those from 2017 to 1969, and you have President Trump 2025. Now you have Joe in the middle. They showed 2 different sets of cannons for the first time in United States history on January the 20th, 2021. 3 cannons with Joe at Arlington, 4 cannons, 21 rounds. The official presidential salute battery, the 3rd Infantry Regiment, the old guard, was at Joint Base Andrews with President Trump with a red carpet rollout. That was your inauguration service right there. That was it. 3 cannons, Arlington National Cemetery. Tells you straight up, the cannons, the 3 volleys seen or heard at Arlington is not to be confused with a 21 gun salute. It tells you not to be confused with. This is how dumb Americans are. I had a veteran argue with me, an influencer. A veteran, now, influencer, arguing with me about this. And it sat there, and this is how the 54th percentile Americans at a 6th grade education or below. 3 volley salute, because you can have a rifle and or cannons seen or heard at Arlington, so it gives you 2 senses there, is not to be confused with a 21 gun salute. It's a funeral service. Logan Act. All right, if you went up to a liberal that has a brain, which would be like 1 in 200 million, but you know, you went up to a liberal and said, hey, I got 2 options for you. Hear me out. 1, you can charge President Trump with all these civil matters. Like, we don't have hard proof, but, you know, he's a ladies' man. He's got a beautiful wife. She's 28 years younger than him. And, you know, model, beautiful, gorgeous, dazzling, you know. But we don't have hard proof, but, you know, people love drama, people love social media, people love propaganda. You know, that's just what Americans do. They don't really care about laws and orders. They don't really care about the things that matter. They have a short attention span. They love social media. They love getting a comment box and just showing their face and showing their rear ends and liking and loving stuff they shouldn't. So you can say that he was with a hooker like 30-something years ago, you know, somewhere in there. And then we'll get these law firms to go in here and go this, and that, this, and that, this, and we're going to put him through court. There's one option. That's A, plan A. Here's plan B. Plan B, it was Joe Biden as vice president to Obama who recommended the Logan Act on 3-star General Michael Flynn, who was just their Defense Intelligence Agency director. He wasn't like a president or anything. He was just their 3-star general that they appointed to that position. And it was Joe, though, who told the president, Obama, said that you could use this thing called the Logan Act, which is 18 United States Code. There's your Title 18 right there, ladies and gentlemen. So which one do you believe in? All right, so Title 18, which is federal crimes. Federal, liberal. Federal crimes and criminal procedures. All right, it's actually titled Private Correspondence with a Foreign Leader. And President Trump, from April 2024 to December 2024 alone, met with 12 foreign leaders 13 different times at Trump Tower and also Mar-a-Lago, which is a private establishment. All right. And it was for the whole world to see. He put it all over social media. Mainstream media covered it. No one can deny it. President Trump can't deny it. That was private correspondence with a foreign leader. All right. You can hit him not only with Title 18, which is federal crime, you could hit him with that, but also because Joe Biden was what you call a sitting president, you could also hit him with a violation of his own Executive Order 13848 with a national emergency, which is election interference, because Joe would be a sitting president, so that would be a violation of breach of national security. You could hit him with that. That'd be tacked on the federal. And hold on before you decide. You actually also have another one there. You can hit him with the 25th Amendment and forever ban and bar him from being president again because of all these breaches of national security. So which one you want? You want civil with a hooker? You want federal and forever get rid of President Trump ever, lawfully, federally, and the whole world's a witness. They can't deny it. Which one you want? Oh, I think I'll go with the hooker. That's how stupid liberals are. And you have to use the term stupid. It's not ignorant. It's not lazy. Stupid. Because, again, you were a jury. You witnessed it. The whole world witnessed it. It was all over the news. President Trump tweeted truth about it. It's all there. So that shows you right there alone that you're watching a special operation. Because why didn't the Democrats... Why didn't they pursue it? Why wasn't there a ruckus over that? Then, 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies. President Trump signed 8 executive orders. He signed 11 executive orders with 11 national emergencies throughout 2017 to 2021. But 8 of those, Joe Biden, quote unquote, continued 4 years in a row. Election interference, one of them. So that order is still current and active. That national emergency is still current. An executive order, again, requires no legislation. It's a pen, paper, president. 3 P's. Pen, paper, president. A national emergency has an automatic 2-year termination clause on it. That's Title 50. Oh, there's your war of national defense again. Title 50, Chapter 34. You can't make this stuff up. Right there. All right, so Title 50, Chapter 34 talks about that. So 8 executive orders, 8 national emergencies. Joe continued 4 years in a row. If you were one of my assistants and you came to me and said, hey, President Jonhson, we got these 8 executive orders here. One of them's for this, this, and this. It's very, very important. These other 2 are, but this right here are big. And I say, hey, look, they automatically terminate 2 years. You don't even have to waste your time. Just go get you a cup of coffee. Let's work on this, this, and that, and that. They wouldn't even have to address it. They could have just let them automatically terminate. Why did Joe continue executive order for election interference 4 years in a row? The funding of the Chinese Communist military, pretty sure that if anybody knows anything about Joe, no matter what the liberals, because they're going to deny everything, but pretty sure old Joe had his hands in communist China for a long time, even before he was vice president as a senator. There's evidence of that. All right. And then Yemen, the liberals all over X right now are saying that, and I'm like, okay, so that wasn't even a President Trump executive order. That was actually Obama's executive order. So they're saying, oh, you Republicans, conservatives, you're all mad and pissed. And they're saying that Trump's done started a war. You all Republicans, conservatives say he never started a war. What's he doing starting this over here in Yemen? He didn't start anything. He's finishing it. But why did Joe continue the order from Yemen? President Trump did, then Joe did, and then President Trump's enforcing it again right now. See, they had to take care of what was important first. It had to go from top to bottom, what was more important than others. Working the way down. But all these 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that Joe continued 4 years in a row required a pen, paper, president. But what did President Trump just validate again a couple weeks ago? The what? The auto pen? Why does Walmart.com have a gold coin up for President Trump, second term, 21 to 2025? What was John Bolton, who got his security clearance revoked? What was John Bolton doing on CNN February last year? Telling the whole world when the host said, oh, can President Trump serve again with all these trials on him? John Bolton said, the Constitution specifically bars President Trump from a third term, but knowing President Trump like I do, he will seek to ratify the Constitution to serve a third term. Trump dance. Right? It's all laws and orders. All right? And Congress didn't have the authority to put term limits on the president in 1951. Nowhere in Article 2, Clause 1, Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1, does it say that? Nowhere. It just says it's president to serve 4 years in a term. It don't tell how many terms. Oh, the president needs to read the Constitution. No, you people who follow Bernie Sanders and liberals, you need to read the Constitution. You need to have a re-education on the whole foundation, or your ass needs deported. I'll take anybody who wants to be in this country all day long for the right reasons over those attitudes. Now, Doge. Doge is the easiest one to prove a liberal. Obama signed Executive Order 13576 in 2011 for government waste. We're talking about 14 years ago. What were you doing 14 years ago, people? Think about it. 14 years ago. Think about what you were doing 14 years ago. He signed this executive order 14 years ago. Then, in 2014, established the program for it. So it took 3 years. Think about that. Look what President Trump does with an executive order and how quick they go to enforcement. Obama signs this order in 2011. It took 3 years to implement the program for it. That tells you right there that these people were just dragging feet. Dragging you know what. They just did enough to get by. Throw you a crumb. And then when you finally raise some saying about, oh, well, we did this right here. We got it on paper right here. No actions whatsoever. 2014, United States Digital Service. All right. President Trump renames it. Okay. So little things like that show you right there that, again, liberals are so dumb that this is how dumb a liberal is. A liberal can lay down on their stomach, head and arms over a swimming pool that's empty with just a bottle of water. And somehow or another, it will look like they pissed themselves. Somehow that water will be back there in the draw section. That's how ignorant a liberal is right now. When they use the word Constitution, horrible. Horrible. That's how dumb liberal. Rhinos, you don't want none of this either. There's some rhinos out there looking like that as well. So Republicans, conservatives that claim to be patriots, you claim to be awake or you're getting there. If you're getting there, that means you're trying, so you're excluded. But those that claim to be, you don't want to look like that either. You want to know what commanders are using. There's a blueprint there. Just so happens to be me. It put it all together in the chronological. Just saying. I'm like President Trump now. And I'm like Johnny Cash. You Christian folks don't want to see you going down there to the prison singing to a bunch of murderers and well, they're not Christian then. You Christian folk don't like seeing you wearing black all the time. Oh, you can't talk to me. I'm in the same room as you. Johnny Cash, boy, he told them straight up. You can talk to me. I'm in the same room as you. Well, it looks like you're going to a funeral. Maybe I am. Now, this is the fun part. I saved this for last. This is going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. I saved this one for last. This is the bonus round. So, see, the narrative has been flipped on the liberals. This is what Special Operations does. This is what has happened. This is what we, the military, have done. Flip the narrative on all the liberals. That's why, again, Republicans, conservatives, you don't want to look like this. That's why if you're a Republican, conservative, or you claim to be a President Trump supporter, you need to get your butt on the program. Because you don't want to look like the liberals. The liberals, we've flipped the whole narrative on them. We have flipped the narrative. Now, all the liberals are supporting incompetent bureaucrats. They're supporting foreign wars. They're supporting all the things that they claim Republicans and conservatives were about. We've done flipped the narrative on them. When they say stuff about Ukraine, they're taking up for foreign war. When they say stuff about Putin, they're taking up for foreign war because they don't know that Putin capitulated. They don't see the bigger operational theater. They don't see the parameter. They don't know the shell of the operation. This is a whole thing is an operation. That's why I put my thumbs there to make it look like a fence is there. All right, now it's not going to stop right here per se, but it's going to be whole new life when we get here. And there'll be a lot more people awake by then. It ain't going to look like it is right now. But let me show you something that happened this week. This is so funny. I didn't put it on Facebook for a reason, or Instagram, but so there was a certain person 2 years ago who was recruited by a certain network to try to take me down. These people weren't in the military, but they recruited this certain active duty soldier, all right, to try to take me down, to confuse people, because people go, oh, retired veteran versus active duty. Well, this person, I never heard of him in my life, ever, before someone showed me this video. And the person's in the uniform. And all this has already been taken care of, a lot of it with JAG and certain things like that. Person tried to steal my federal trademark. Tried to say it was a lawful, a legal way. First of all, I didn't use the right terms. It's not lawful. It says a legal way. No, first to use is this is how federal law works for people out there. If you have a product and you put it out on the market, it's first to use, not first to file. So know that straight out the gate. So if you already have something in use, then you're good. You can just prove yourselves. Well, this person put out there all their motives. They went and stole 1776 Nation on Facebook, tried to prevent my book sales, put that in writing. Their intent and motives were trying to prevent my book sales. All right, so I'm saying all this for a reason. All right, that part's squashed for the most part. All right, still a dummy, still an idiot, still obsessed with me, might be a weirdo, but whatever. They're jealous, really. But this is a revelation that came true right in front of everybody. All right? This shows you that you got to study as well as not just listen to people. So when I tell you, when I'm talking to you, I don't want you just to listen and take it from my mouth. I want you to go take all the links that are receipts to show you that, hey, here's the receipts, .gov, .mil. Here's how they all coincide. Here's how they go together. Some things pair with each other. Some things are kind of alone out here. It's still part of it, but it don't tie in, but it's still part of it, right? So little things like this. So this person, right, took this clip way back. When I first went globally viral, I was on a show, all right, with Nino Rodriguez. He asked me a question about Space Force, all right, and I said, well, Space Force, President Trump established on the same day that the order went into Title 50, Chapter 33, that Section 1550, same day, December the 20th, 2019. Space Force was established. All right. In August 2022, the month I went viral, all right, August 2022 and December 2022, all right, the Space Force took over all communications of the Army and the Navy. Then in 2023, it talked about taking over the ground missile warning system of the Army, which took place. So the Space Force took over all communications. On this clip, I was saying that in an emergency situation, the Space Force is going to have the communications now. That's what they're telling you. That, and not just emergency, there's a bunch of different segments. But we were talking about, the question was presented to me. This person didn't use the question that was presented to me. They're called cherry picking. That's how they slice and dice things to fit their narrative, which shows this person just wanted publicity, right? Dummy, using the uniform for the wrong reasons, all right, and doing that. But it's a revelation because this one video had my name in it, all right, and they were trying to use my name to build theirs, right? So that's why I tell people, stand on your own 2 feet, clean up your own backyard. You got something to say? Stand on your own 2 feet. You don't need my name. Take my name out of your mouth. All right? But most of them want other things in their mouth besides my name. all that stuff. Just kidding. All right, but no, I'm not kidding. A lot of these people are. They're weirdos. So watch this. It's so funny. So you got to know the origin of the question. And I said specifically that in a situation, if we reach that dire situation, which I don't think we will, but if we did, then it's telling you right there the Army and the Navy put all communications to the Space Force, meaning all communications, everything. So just this week, articles put out, Space Force put single quotations, they did this, not me, Space Force transitioning SATCOM contracts from DISA. All right. So DISA is your Defense Information Systems Agency. Now, when you go to their Wikipedia page, it'll pull up, it'll show you everything. Enterprise services, applications, global video services, DoD enterprise email, DoD enterprise portal service, defense collaboration services, forge.mil, defense messaging service, strategic knowledge integration web, automated time, attendance, and we're talking a bunch of things. But you scroll down and watch this. Wireless. So the question was posed to me that what President Trump talked about, Mars. Pretty soon we'll put our beautiful flag on the surface of Mars. All right, so we haven't been back to the moon since people thought we did in 1969. Don't get in the comment box, you moon people. Don't. It's not about that. Flat Earth, round Earth, nobody freaking cares. All right, it's not about that. That Mars comment comes out of nowhere because President Trump brought that up first, November the 15th, 2022, in his speech that he was announcing for presidency in 2024. Well, that's just a random thing to say in a speech like that. Well, MARS just happens to stand for Military Auxiliary Radio System. Acronyms. In the military, we love acronyms, especially the Army and the Marine Corps. We love some acronyms. You talking about memorization? Acronyms are tough in the military because there's so many of them. That's a random comment to make. And then there's also the 50 senators people forgot about. So there's 100 senators. 50 senators 2 years ago received satellite phones, emergency satellite phones. People forgot all about that. I remember stuff that people forget like that. So, to me, the way you are going to have to get everybody on board is to use the emergency alert system, but not in a bad way. Not what people think of. When they think of an emergency alert, they think of it, oh gosh, we're nuclear, get in your bunkers, get your butt in the, No. I think that there could be a way to use it in a good way. But I may be wrong. That may be what I'm wrong about, and that's fine. I'm a male. I'm due to be wrong. Ladies, we're wrong about a lot of stuff, guys, right? I'm due to be wrong. But watch this. So this person, on their video, their whole basis of coming after me, trying to steal everything, frame me, and all this other stuff. You talking about, they went off the deep end. Stupid, really. But, whatever. They won't do it anymore because JAG's watching their butts now. But, has nothing to do with laws and orders. So here's the Space Force on, March 26th. Space Force transitioning SATCOM contracts from DISA, Defense Information Systems Agency. And you go over here to DISA on Wikipedia. Wikipedia is good for a lot of things because they do have a lot of details. Wireless portion, Enhanced Mobile Satellite Services, EMSS. We pull up EMSS on DISA.mil. Let's read what it says. commercial satellite infrastructure to provide voice and low data rate data services from a mobile lightweight terminal through a Department of Defense dedicated gateway which accesses the Defense Information Systems Network. It is capable of providing secure services in addition to non-secure access to commercial telephone services. EMSS supports Department of Defense missions and operations as well as other federal, national security, and emergency preparedness. Keyword, key terms. Emergency preparedness, parentheses, NS/EP communications. Well, let's look up emergency preparedness. NS/EP or National Security Emergency Preparedness. Now watch this. After this douchebag tried to steal my federal trademark, after this douche canoe tried to frame me with fake Photoshop pictures, all right, and they tried to build this narrative, they started trashing my YouTube pages, comment boxes, talking about the females in the video. They started doing all these things, trying to build this narrative that I was talking to certain females out there that I was not talking to, which communications can prove that. But people love drama, right? So they stirred up all this, stirred up Nino's people as well. Nino built a base, good, bad, or indifferent, but I don't care if you like them or not. That's not what we're here for. Stirred up all these people, made all these people, active duty over veteran. Stirred up all these people, confused all these people, not oath, not mission, not part of an operation whatsoever. That is not how, no way, Jose. It's not how that will work, ladies and gentlemen. Laws and orders are not meant to do that to you. Military does not do that. And I'm not putting military over God, but so we'll say God. But God says what? I'm not the author of what? Confusion? I gave you love, power, and a sound mind. All right? He's the author of completion. Military is not here to confuse you. He's not here to disrupt your life or make you mad, angry, bitter, upset. Not personally like that. No way, Jose. When we take our oath for bigger, grander purposes, a bigger, grander mission for humanity. Not this, not propaganda, not drama, especially some jealous douchebag who wanted to boost his secondary career. No way, Jose. So after all of that had nothing to do with laws and orders, had nothing to do with my First Amendment, period, couldn't stand on their own 2 feet and say, well, I don't think this means that. All this stuff came crumbling down with this one article that was put out just a few days ago, came crumbling down for everybody who's paid attention to that. Because guess what the definition of emergency preparedness is? Refers to the telecommunication services used to maintain readiness and respond to crises that could harm the population, damage property, or threaten national security by the national communication system. And specifically talks about a continuity of government, continuity of operations in other reading and literature. What did Joe Biden sign again January the 19th, 2025? For those that thinks he's real, especially this douchebag who went around following me like a little lost puppy on social media telling people that, presidents should sign executive orders because that's what they do. Dumber than a box of rocks. That's the people we need out of the military too. These commanders have got to do better. The bigger commanders have got to do better on recognizing douche canoes who are in for the wrong reasons. All right. This right here, after all the 2 years now, over 2 years, that whole bullcrap narrative just got crumbled. So all the people on Nino's show, or watch Nino as well, go over there and tell all the people on Nino's show, all that narrative came crumbling down. Right there. Communications, emergency preparedness, continuity of operations, national security. And old Joe is revoking Executive Order 13961 on January the 19th, 2025. If Joe was president and if Joe won the presidency, he would have had the same power as every other president from January the 20th, 2021 to January the 20th, 2025. How come Joe did not do one single thing on his own? All he did was continue executive orders by President Trump. And the executive orders, they showed him right that people would say, oh, he wrote this one. Why would Joe Biden do something that goes with the grain of the operation that's outlined from 2016 to present day? Why? So that goes back to liberals. You get two options. Either Joe Biden is the greatest president of all time next to President Trump because he continued 8 executive orders by President Trump with 8 national emergencies, that all those 8 executive orders are the very things that's taken back the Panama Canal, implementing Doge, taking out all the trader information, stock information, reset the currencies, etc., 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 silver, gold-backed digital currencies, decentralize all the banks. It gutted the whole global alliance. It took out the whole, everything, the cabal, the deep state. It's gutted all them. So those 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies are the very thing that's draining the swamp. Why would Joe Biden continue those? So see, that destroys all the narrative. Also, you the people out there has been watching me for this whole time. You know people who did this. They said, oh, Obama's pulling the strings back here. Why would Obama keep all those executive orders continued and open? See, this is what it looks like. Let's say we were in a normal 4 years. All right, we were in a normal 8, a normal 12. So we'll take 2016 to present day. All right, if that was a normal and there was no military operation, no special operation, then when President Trump surprised everybody in 2016 and did what he did, the outsider, not a politician, all the Democrats and liberals of the deep state, the global alliance, the swamp, they wouldn't allow President Trump to get back in. They would have done what? If Joe got in, straight up being voted in, no cheating, let's just go with that for the moment, they would have revoked everything by President Trump. They would have revoked it or terminated it. They'd have made it to where when he walked back in, he would have had to go back and redone everything that he put into place, spend all that time going back and putting all those executive orders back in, versus letting him walk back in and go, hey, by the way, here's these 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that you sign into action, and you declare national emergencies. Here's those 8, and here's the keys back. Here, go ahead and F us up now. You got us now. You got us right where you want us. Go ahead. I know people don't like the F-bomb, and I didn't say it, but go ahead, just take us out now. Here's those 8 executive orders, 8 national emergencies. We didn't terminate them for you, so you can enforce those again and wipe us out, baby. Here you go. That's what that's saying. That's exactly what that's saying. Here's the 8. Here's the keys to 8 executive orders and 8 national emergencies. We didn't terminate them for you, so come on in here and just beat us around like a little wet hen, right? That's exactly what that's saying. So see, when you take the things that are substantial, but also that are critical, but also that are foundational, real laws and orders, when you take everything that's current and invoked, and you put all the negative and the chaos and the noise and the propaganda and the drama and your feelings and your emotions, when you put all that aside and you take everything that's currently invoked and put it on this blueprint like these do, it would make no sense. So either Joe is the greatest with President Trump, greatest president of all time, or, and there's no and or, it's an or President Trump is 1,000% correct. He was right about everything. And he's the greatest president of all time, wartime president of a special operation, unique operation, strategic plan, special operations, unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, clandestine operations, covert operations that's overthrown the government lawfully, militarily lawfully. It's either or. You have no other options because there's, again, the Logan Act proves that, Doge proves that, 8 executive orders prove that. You don't need any more proof. 3 cannons are like the cherry on top. But those 3 things alone negate any other argument out there. So, like that right there, it shows you, for those who've been following me for almost 3 years, we're going on 2.5, but think about that. Those of you who've been with me and you knew the whole time, I'm sitting there going, this ain't part of an operation. So look what resilience and tenacity does. I sat back and I collected all the evidence. I let all the drama and propaganda, let them talk, let them try to tear me down. But Daniel's got to go into the lion's den. Faith is no good unless you've been tested. Baptism ain't worth a dang unless it's super cold and you've been through some heat. Alright? So, again, you want to know who the good guys are, the good gals are out there? The fruits. You got to be able to know the fruits. The way you know that is to read and study what's in place, but also same thing with the Bible. That's why so many Christians are missing the boat right now. It ain't about being perfect. It ain't about being at church every Sunday, every Wednesday. It ain't about that. Great, but it ain't about that. It's about knowing God's Word. Right here, and it'll come out right here. I'm not the author of confusion. I didn't give you the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. So He gave us free will. And what you do with your free will is up to you. And the people out there, you're not a Christian, you're not a Bible believer, whatever it is, then you're already in trouble. Because it's already been proven to Pluto and back. It's there. So, you want to know who you can trust? You got to know the fruits. You got to know the Spirit. But you can't know the Spirit unless you know how the Spirit operates, how God operates. Alright, that's how you know. But evil, corruption, lying, theft, deception, plagiarism, framing people, fraud, nowhere is that part of anything. On any level whatsoever. It's not a part of that. Alright, so where we are, these presidential emergency action documents, President Trump says, I will be exonerated, not acquitted. Exonerated means clear of everything. Guess who's going to do that? The left are going to do that. That's why these law firms are capitulating right now. They're saying, we're guilty, but we'll work with you. There's nothing wrong with that. They're doing exactly what the thief on the cross got when he acknowledged Jesus Christ. He lived his whole life as a thief, but he acknowledged Christ when it mattered. All right? These people, whether it's part of the operation or not, doesn't matter. But for the people out there that's still learning this, when someone says, hey, I want to be on the right side, I want to join this, you don't keep condemning them. You don't keep kicking them while they're down. Just like this person, I said, if you'll issue a public formal apology, I'll quit talking about it. Real simple. I don't hold grudges, but when you're trying to, destroy my life, I'm going to remember that. All right. But if you'll make a formal public apology and move on with it, all right, great. But until that happens, hey, I'm not going to forget. I've forgiven already in my heart, but I'm not going to forget about it. But it helps show people like you out there who the good people are, who the good guys are, who the good gals are. Because there's got to be good people in the world. There has to be. All right. If there wasn't good people like me, you'd be in real trouble. I mean, you talking about real trouble. I mean, people be busting you the door all the time. People be kicking in your door, robbing you, all over the place. If you didn't have good law enforcement, if you didn't have good sheriffs and good military, but good law enforcement period on all levels, you'd be in trouble all the time. So to act like everybody's bad, that's just not right. Like Dan Scavino says, right-hand guy to President Trump. Don't let 10% make you think that they're the majority. They're not. All right, but if you want to know what's going on, there's a full-fledged blueprint, chronological order. That, again, the people out there made this a #1 bestseller in both parts. The people did that. I didn't do that. The content did, but, you know, again, God helped me do all that. You talking about a lot of stuff. And I'm self-published, no publisher, right? So I had to do all this on my own. I did all the editing, everything on all that. Everything. So when people out there talking about being a grifter, well, they can eat, you know what? They don't know what they're talking about. We're in a capitalist market, capitalist nation. I'm self-made and self-built. All right, I'm a veteran-owned and veteran everything. This is all me. And I'm blessed to have my family that helps me package and ship. But we're not a company like that. We're a small little organization, So I'm blessed to have my family that helps me package and ship them. But it takes us a lot longer than a big company could. But it's 596 pages. It's all there. Now, if I put everything in there, it'd be longer than Obamacare. All right? It would be, ladies, it would be the operational of how y'all get dressed in the morning, right? It'd be about that long. How y'all go through about 47 wardrobes before you go, oh, I want the original one I picked out, right? All just aside, but, y'all know that's true. But if I put everything in there, it'd be longer than, it'd be Obamacare. Have you seen the books of Obamacare? It'd be like that. So, anyways, I've been talking for a long time, and I wanted to make this one special because there were so many things that's taking place, so many things are rapid fire. President Trump, he's signing so much stuff, and there's so much validity everywhere that you got to pick your validation, because those of you who are following, validity's everywhere. Like it's so many places, and everything ties back into the laws and orders put back here. All right, the executive orders way back in 2017 to 2020. It's all there. So everything's tying in. You can't focus on all the riffraff. So stay focused. The way you stay focused is to know the commanders and what they're operating with. And you can know that by that. Now, if you can't afford one of those, that's perfectly fine. The documents.info is still up. Some of those links don't work because some of these places have deleted them. ABC and NBC, some people have deleted their evidence. All right, but it gets you in the ballpark. And then my pages get you in the ballpark. My Facebook pages, my Telegram page, my X, they all get you in the ballpark of, what to study and what to look at when I post certain things on there. So if you can't afford a book, that's fine. I put everything, the books just put it all in one location. But my pages have them somewhere on there. You can see them. So there's that. Now I'm going to put this on Rumble as soon as I can. So I'll get it up very quick on Rumble. So my Rumble, I only have one Rumble account as well. There's a lot of people out there that's not either hearing me or not looking in the comment boxes, but my 1776 Nation link, so my link tree, linktr.ee/1776 Nation has all my pages on it. And unfortunately, there's so many people have been scammed by frauds out there that are using my name, my image, and everything. And there's nothing we can do about that. If we pursue one, 10 more pop up while we're pursuing that one. It's just where we are. But President Trump's doing something about that. The Communications Decency Act. All right, that's all. But it's going to take time, ladies and gentlemen. All right, and they got to be delicate with that because again, they start whacking off accounts and deleting people. Then what are people going to do? Oh, you deleted my account and I got a First Amendment, blah, blah, blah. So there's so much stuff that they got to go through, and you have to agree to as a people to go, hey, yes, we need a digital Bill of Rights. Yes, we need accounts that only do this. No, we don't want these certain accounts. It's all part of it, the internet world we live in. So again, be careful who you follow, be careful who you listen to. But my official accounts are on that link tree. And same thing with Rumble. Rumble out there are accounts out there that have thousands of followers saying they're me, and they're making thousands of dollars a month because of the monetization. And they'll screenshot every video and make you think it's my account. It's not my account. My official Rumble account is Rattletrap1776. So when you go to rumble.com, you type in the search bar RATTLETRAP1776. Enter. That's my account. It's my only Rumble account. So, again, be careful who you follow. And we'll see you soon.